Good evening, welcome back. We're talking about Naruto again because of course we are. You new here or something? We're talking about Naruto again. Naruto haunts me like the flashback of a dead wife in an Oscar-winning action film. Just to set the scene for you here, I have a generous glass of Merlot, an entire carton of Tillamook Oregon strawberry, and a blueberry bagel. The premise of this video is to rewrite her somewhat within the bounds of the existing story, / taking OG Naruto and Shippuden together and restructuring some of the elements of the plot surrounding Sakura specifically. No light novels, no movies. I might reference their content just to make a point or whatever, but the idea is that these are main story changes. I may reference Boruto in the same manner also, but that show isn't real to me, so don't count on that. I will be talking about the anime and rewriting the anime, not the manga. The manga is a little different and does Sakura less dirty, in all fairness. But I'm talking about reworking the anime because it's my video and I want to. I also watch the dub only. Say what you will about me. I do love myself an anime dub. I am including filler episodes and arcs for this, but just in less depth because they're not central to the main story, but they're in the anime, so they're canon to the anime. They're not canon to the manga, they're canon to the anime, so they count to me, so we're using them. The ostrich shadow clone jutsu is canon to me, alright? This is important for the world building of Naruto.
Here's my clone jutsu!
And I'll use it also as a reference point if there's something interesting or added context or something I think is important to the point I'm trying to make, but they are going to be considered with less intensity and depth than the main story. I am not going to pretend that there's any real rules to this video. I'm taking canon as a suggestion, mostly. Like, I'm sort of going to stick to it, but it's going to be a real half-ass kind of effort. Spoiler warning, I guess, if anyone needs a spoiler warning for Naruto. I really don't think the most impactful part of the experience is plot twists or anything, so I think you could still enjoy the show even if you know everything that happens in it. This is gonna be like half rewrite, half analysis, and should hopefully work for both fans and people who have only a vague recollection of Naruto's plot. If you haven't seen Naruto, don't be afraid. I will give you very poorly explained context as I see fit. Disclaimer, because I know how the Naruto fandom moves, I have zero power or ability to actually change the story of Naruto. If you don't like my takes here, fret not. It will not affect literally anything. This is just a for fun hypothetical. The basic premise of Naruto is that some kids go to ninja school in ninja society and then get put into 3-man squads with a grown-up in charge. Shonen anime plot then ensues. Sakura is on a team with protagonist Naruto, deuteragonist Sasuke, and depressed millennial Kakashi. At the end of the original anime, she becomes the apprentice of the ninja president wizard doctor Tsunade, who is the best character in the show as far as I'm concerned. In the time skip to part 2, Shippuden, Sakura exists mostly as a support / medic, but is occasionally allowed to fight. There are 5 major ninja villages, each from different nations, and our protagonists live in the Hidden Leaf Village in the Land of Fire. The conflict is a mix of political drama and international mafia crime, targeting powerful beasts sealed inside children by the government, and Naruto is one of them, as well as the orphan son of the previous host of the Nine Tails and the previous ninja president, also known as the Hokage. And his big dream in life is to become Hokage. Sasuke is from a legacy cop family with magic eyes who are all murdered in one night by his older brother. Kakashi is internationally famous for being really good at his job, and Sakura is a relatively average 12-year-old girl. There's some pretty standard critiques of Sakura's character within the fandom, which are, hey, make her less quote-unquote useless, as in have her be more involved in the story and the plot. Tone down the crush she has on Sasuke, because in the original she has like this really aggressive, just out of control fucking crush on him. It's crazy. And make her nicer to Naruto because she's routinely just like beats the shit out of him for no reason at all. And like, yeah, fair enough. I agree for the most part, but we're gonna get more specific than that and add a few more things. I'm not interested in sanding all her edges off or just cleanly cutting off the less likable traits she has. The point here is to make her interesting, not necessarily digestible. Sakura discourse can be kind of a snake eating its own tail, or circle jerk, as I wrote in the script, but that seems kind of vulgar now. Oh, right, I said to put it in an extreme and unnecessarily vulgar way. Okay, way to go, script writing me. I had my bases covered. People say the same things, and tweak the same scenes the same way when critiquing the way her character is written. So some of what I suggest here is also going to be for the sake of spicing things up, because I think there's very agreed upon changes within the community that Sakura probably should have been more involved in X fight, and she should have treated X character a little less extreme. Boring, heard of it. We already know that. We're gonna go a little crazier here. Which is me soft launching that I will be advocating for significant and outright changes to her character. I know the animation studio nerfed the hell out of her and changed a lot of her dialogue to be more unlikable, but that discourse has been going on for years, and at this point, I'm just not gonna linger on it too long. Like, TLDR, they just hate her ass over there for some reason. I don't even know why they did what they did. Even if the manga does do her less dirty, it still doesn't do her well, let's be clear about that. She's more likable, but she doesn't have much more to do in the plot. So we still got plenty to tackle in the anime. This video is not about the manga, don't forget that. Sorry, I'm eating my bagel. There's a lot of Sakura stans and a lot of Sakura haters, and I am neither per se. I'm a Sakura apologist. She was fumbled badly, but I see the potential in her character and why people like her so much. I think a lot of Sakura fans are in love with her potential, and in a lot of ways, I am too. I have made what I like to call an indigestible numbered list, in the sense that the sections sure are numbered, but the order and number system used are dubious. Part 1. Diagnosis. I think Sakura's biggest problem is inconsistency. Her character suffers from a strange kind of vagueness early on, wherein she has a significantly less established backstory and identity to the rest of the Konoha 9, which are the initial 9 students who make Genin and are our supporting cast in part 1. But she has a significantly less developed backstory compared to the rest of them, partially due to her lack of clan. Almost every other main and side character in Naruto comes from some kind of ninja lineage, and Sakura is one of the very few characters who does not. But it doesn't really go anywhere. They seemingly forgot about introducing Sakura's family sooner and not giving her more development in that area. Her other biggest problem is being, more often than not, completely unrelated and uninvolved in the plot of the show. Like, she has nothing to do with the story on a personal level, the way that the rest of her team, Team 7, does. Being a member of Team 7 is often the only reason she's within 10 feet of a plot point, while Naruto, Sasuke, and Kakashi have personal ties to antagonists and initiate major story events and have overarching goals that are more specific than just get stronger. Sakura seems involved with things either by chance or proximity to Team 7. She also has basically no reason to be a ninja, and I feel that especially in part 1 we are not given sufficient reasoning for it beyond liking Sasuke. Plus, I don't think she even met Sasuke until joining the Ninja Academy, so I guess that's a decision she made before she even knew him. We do see her doubts about being a ninja in the aftermath of the first arc leading up to the exam to be the next rank of ninja, the Chunin exams, but she feels still very accidentally directionless and very much like a casualty of prioritizing other things. The fact that she is not from a major ninja clan is tragically uncommented upon and underutilized. Like I said, if we unpack the reasons people usually dislike her, it boils down to the complaints of 1, useless, and 2, her treatment of Naruto and Sasuke. We'll get to how to address that later on, but in practice this means she does not impact the story much despite her near constant presence in it, and the way she treats the boys feels unwarranted and overbearing at times. Because of the fact that she doesn't have the benefit of being a side character that can be easily retconned, the longer the story went on and the longer she was present, the harder it was to change things. So basically our goal here is to give her agency, make her important to the plot, and give her a more nuanced character arc. Part 2. Backstory and other general tweaks. Naruto is the main character with a super demon sealed inside him and a cosmic reincarnation thing happening that we'll get to later. Sasuke has the whole sole survivor avenger of his clan thing and the most well-explored backstory and emotional arc in the show, and is also part of the cosmic reincarnation thing that we'll get to later. Kakashi is involved in some way with basically every plot-important character. Sakura has nothing going on. First things first, make it a real orphan gang. She's part of our orphanage gang. As it stands, all of Team 7 is an orphan except for her. And so she's the odd man out, but not in an interesting way. They never explore how her having just like a normal set of parents affects anything. It is genuinely narratively pointless that she has parents. Naruto and Sasuke are two sides of the same orphan coin, and Kakashi is meant to be the third side of that orphan coin, sort of. Making Sakura not an orphan and then putting her in the traumatized orphan team is pointless unless you're going to take an angle with that. My stance is that we should make her also an orphan, and we should make her an orphan because her parents died in the Nine Tails attack. An attack from the beast sealed inside Naruto that happened 12 years prior to the events of the story. It attacked the leaf and then was sealed inside Naruto by his parents. So there were a lot of casualties, and I think amongst those casualties should be Sakura's parents. And it should be the reason why she dislikes Naruto so much at the beginning of the story. She's civilian in this version, so she didn't have the same resources Sasuke did or attention from the Hokage like Naruto did. Not that he had that much help. But that would affect her differently. To be a regular civilian person who lost her parents in a horrible attack and not having the same government support that her two related to very important people teammates that she has. And like I said, I think we need a more fleshed out reason for her to become a ninja, and having her parents die in the Nine Tails attack is a more interesting springboard for that. Most other ninja in the show are legacy ninja who were expected to go into this line of work since birth. So if she's an orphan and in need of work and bitter about her parents' deaths, this is a better angle for her, I think. I'm thinking here less horrific trauma and more kid failed by the system, and that I don't think she needs to have personally witnessed anything, and maybe even had a couple of adults who were there for her, but clearly adults that took matters into their own hands to be there for her, like an elderly neighbor or a shopkeeper of a store she frequents, or Ino's parents stepping in. Ino is another member of the Konoha 9 who's friends with Sakura, by the way. Ino's parents stepping in, so she had a pretty okay childhood compared to the rest of Team 7, but she's still an orphan. And she's a ninja because she lives in a society with a child soldier industrial complex and needs to make money, and this is basically her only option. Having her parents die when she was a baby also gives her something in common with Naruto, in that neither would remember their families, while Kakashi and Sasuke do remember their families. And it would also create the similarity that Sakura and Naruto would have lost their parents on the same day. Even the random sound ninja Zaku from the Shino preliminary fight during the tuning exams, who dies like 20 episodes later, has more backstory than her. Like several full minutes of flashback. It doesn't even have to be all that tragic, just give her some lore. Give her another friend other than Ino. That could also be a good contrast from Naruto and Sasuke allegedly having zero friends, which isn't really true because Naruto was friends with Shikamaru and Choji and Kiba, so the whole no friends bit narrative for him doesn't really work. It's not really true. Naruto actually kind of has more friends than Sakura from the very beginning, and no one in the Konoha class that they were in really disliked him that much other than Sakura. But Sasuke certainly has zero friends outside of Team 7. My point here is that having Sakura be more socially connected in the village would honestly be helpful world building, because Naruto and Sasuke have fewer relationships at the start of the show, and I think it would also provide a nice contrast in characterization. You could have Sakura and Shikamaru be board game partners, or she dog sits for Kiba's mom, or whatever. Even just knowing Ino's parents well. Being friends with Hinata so that during the tuning exams, when Naruto's like, what's up with this Hyuga clan business, Sakura could be like, oh yeah, her dad sucks, bro. Doing things this way would also give us characters that died in the Nine Tails attack other than Naruto's parents and Aruka's parents, Naruto's homeroom teacher. So that's another plus for the world building. It also gives us a more tangible point of reference for the whole village being Naruto haters in the beginning of the show. As in, as irrational as it is, here's why people felt so strongly about him. Then, Sakura's early arc is about learning to trust Naruto and see him as separate from the Nine Tails. I would also say that I have an agenda of desperately wanting the grunge, rock, street kid vibe from a lot of the original show's openings to be more incorporated into the show. I hate that Naruto's graffiti habit vanishes after, like, episode 2. I think Sakura being an orphan, and by extension unsupervised just like Naruto, gives them the opportunity to bond over being street urchins after Sakura gets past the whole nine-tailed fox thing. Then, we get Naruto and Sakura trying to get Sasuke to come down from his tower and hang out with them. I think having all three of them be on their own opens up the door to them doing stuff together off-duty because none of them really have someone waiting for them at home. Just 3 orphans who can't really cook, struggling to make dinner together, or hanging out on New Year's. I would also like Sakura's snarky, grumpy, only sane person in the room side to her character to be more prominent, and for her propensity for arguing to extend beyond exclusively Naruto and Ino. We'll touch more on this later. I also want to go in on the potential here to emphasize the whole 12-year-old orphan soldier bit, and that Sakura could just be here because she really doesn't have any other options to support herself, and that's why she's initially less hardcore than the rest of her team. We see that even once on Team 7, Naruto is frequently broke and struggles to afford food, and has to scrimp and save, which may be partially a project of poor budgeting, but it's not like he's a shopaholic. He wears the same outfit every day and alternates between instant ramen and, like, food stand ramen, which can't really be that expensive. Outside of that and some ninja gear, something he uses less than the average ninja, I don't know what he's spending money on. They don't pay that boy enough. The fact that Sakura seems less into the ninja thing at first could be then contextualized by the fact that this is just a job to her and not a life mission, and that the Land of Waves arc, the first arc of the show, and then the second arc of the show, the Chunin exams, are a 1-2 punch that lights a fire under her ass to actually apply herself, since she's on the main character squad and has to if she wants to survive. A few more tweaks for this. She has perfect chakra control, canonically, more or less. And that the energy used to do the ninja superpowers, she has this flawless, precise control over it that is unrivaled by her peers, but it's never really used for something. I think we should use her chakra control to make it that she's so sensitive to other people's chakra that it could play into her genjutsu resistance, genjutsu being like illusion spells, and she could disrupt other people's chakra flows as well as her own. Shikamaru, one of the other characters of the main class of ninja students, mentions in the Naruto the Last movie that Sakura is low-key completely immune to most genjutsu, and it's like, if we knew that, we should have been sending her ass to fight Itachi in part 1. This is a joke, but could you imagine getting Sakura just like clearing Itachi's ass because the Tsukiyomi doesn't work on her? She's just like, wrong. I perfect parry your genjutsu. She's not just invincible to most genjutsu, but also to a mind transfer jutsu. Like, she's just fucking cracked and it never goes anywhere. I brought this up in my last Naruto video with the just insanely bad production quality, so you don't really need to go watch it. But the fact that her inner Sakura defeating the mind transfer is completely forgotten instead of being investigated, like, by the interrogation department, which is headed up by the Yamanaka clan, Ino's clan, who their clan jutsu is the mind transfer jutsu, and she just shrugs it off, and the entire interrogation department of the government is like, sure, whatever. One of the most powerful espionage/interrogation techniques you guys have, and this 12-year-old with no ninja clan just shrugs it off like light work, and everyone's like, whatever. Who cares? Investigate that! It would also be helpful to make her more interested in hand-to-hand from the very beginning of her own accord before Tsunade shows up, so her just asking to be her student makes a little more sense than my teammates have a very powerful mentor and I want one also kind of energy. Or you could have Sakura's interest in medical ninjutsu, because she later goes on to be a medic, be based in feeling upset about being unable to help several characters later on in the original Naruto series who are all injured at the same time, and feeling helpless about their situation because they're just injured in the hospital and she can't do anything, and Tsunade's not in town yet, and Tsunade is like mega wizard doctor, so there's just nobody who can heal these people, and we all just have to sit on our hands until somebody finds Tsunade. So she's upset about not being able to help them, and then is like totally blown away and impressed by everything Tsunade is able to do for them once she arrives in town. That could also be further motivation for her to become Tsunade's apprentice, because as it stands, she just kind of like shows up one day and is like, you know what, I want to be your apprentice, and Tsunade's like, fuck it, sure. Like, it's not really an established connection. Again, one of the biggest things Sakura's character suffers from is the fact that there does not seem to have been any sort of plan with her. As we've said, as I already said that we've already said, the story very much reads like they wrote or planned Naruto training with Jiraiya, his frog mentor guy, and Sasuke training with Orochimaru, snake mentor guy, and then realizing that Sakura has to do something and slapped her with Tsunade because she's the third member of the legendary Sannin team that the other two are a part of and happens to be in the village right now. The boys each have reasons and built up connections to their Sannin, while Sakura hits Tsunade up just cuz. Both Jiraiya and Orochimaru wanted Sasuke and Naruto respectively as their students, and had narrative and thematic connections to them as their mentors. Tsunade had no idea who Sakura even really was until she pulled up and begged to be a student, and Tsunade is like, nah, okay, sure. Tsunade has a more strongly developed relationship and connection to Naruto than she does to Sakura, and it's not even close. She has a heartfelt relationship with Rock Lee, even. I think Tsunade taking an interest in Sakura because of her chakra control, or having them meet or talk one-on-one at all prior to Sakura asking to be her apprentice, would add some much-needed depth to their connection. She's motivated in a very milquetoast, I might as well just to keep up with everyone else kind of way. I think if she was written to go to Tsunade with a more maligned, frustrated attitude instead of stalwart optimism, and Tsunade was able to see herself in Sakura, their connection would be stronger. It would have been interesting, too, to have a subplot about how Tsunade was failed by the third Hokage, who was her sensei, both as a mentor and now as a predecessor, as she inherits a political mess from him. It is my personal wish that the third Hokage, specifically previous ninja president, had been more explicitly characterized as a morally ambiguous leader who made the wrong calls more than once and left other people to handle the fallout. He was Orochimaru's teacher, he authorized the Uchiha massacre, and he had poor prevention and defense leading up to the sound invasion that happens after the Chunin exams arc in part 1. It could have added some much-needed nuance to the role of Hokage, but a dose of realism for Naruto and the audience about the demands of the role and how easy it is to ruin lives when you have that kind of power and responsibility. I find the way that Tsunade treats her role as Hokage with a grim determination and is clearly taking the burden very seriously and is very stressed out by the workload to be very compelling, especially compared to how the other Hokage were shown in the role. Not to say the other Hokage were asleep on the job, but they were often portrayed in a more god or saint-like light, while Tsunade reads more like an actual political leader. Which, by the way, I have some thoughts about the mechanics of the Hokage seat as a political office, so put a pin in that. We'll come back to it. Strengthening the development for Tsunade here strengthens the narrative core of Naruto's dream to be Hokage and Sakura's relationship to Tsunade. It's a win-win-win all the way down. As it stands, like I said, I don't think Sakura has as meaningful a connection to Tsunade that either of the other members of Team 7 do to their respective mentors. The father-son and abuser low-key hostage dynamics respectively. What does Tsunade think of Sakura outside of being vaguely proud of her? How does she feel about Sasuke, not as a fugitive, but as her apprentice's teammate? Honestly, both Sasuke's relationship to Orochimaru and Sakura's relationship to Tsunade pale in comparison to the relationship between Naruto and Jiraiya, but that is perhaps a byproduct of Naruto being the main character. I do, however, maintain this criticism on the basis that Naruto is so goddamn long, surely we had time for this. I'm okay with Sakura being less narratively important and having less screen time than Naruto and Sasuke, but I think she should matter at least as much as Kakashi. In my perfect world, Sasuke and Sakura are equally important while Naruto is still the main focus, but I might be asking for too much. Part 2.5, Combat Style. I think Sakura should have a really brutal fighting style, like what we see occasionally in Shippuden cranked up to 11. She doesn't have the Sharingan or Kurama or anything else, no secret family ninjutsu up her sleeve like the rest of her team, so I think she should be the anti-Naruto in the sense that she doesn't talk no jutsu ever, she just nails you. She doesn't have as much chakra as either of her other team members, so she should always fight like she's trying to end the fight as quickly as possible. I would potentially also suggest that she train with multiple other teachers and ninja in the village during the time skip, like Might Guy or Rock Lee or Kurenai or Anko or any other ninja besides Tsunade, because, like, she can. Naruto and Sasuke are out in the woods and shit. They've only got one teacher, but Sakura had a whole village of ninja to learn from. And I'm saying Sakura becoming strong without leaving the village would be thematically poignant and opposed to Sasuke's choices. Making her hardcore also solves another major problem for her character, which is that she's sort of swagless, especially compared to the rest of Team 7. Like, that's Team Swag. I had a whole section on like what constitutes a good fight scene here before, but it was getting out of hand and this video's already really, really long. But basically the two examples I think of is the fight scene with Tifa in the church from Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, the movie, and the Yang Xiaolong fight from the Yellow trailer for Ruby. You see a little bit of what I'm talking about in movies like Crescent Moon Kingdom and this one specific shot from her fight with Sasori in Shippuden, but in the story proper, most of her biggest displays of power are for slapstick comedy bits. She's genuinely hit Naruto with more force than like 90% of her enemies. I think incorporating the sort of principles of rhythm and momentum and inertia and gravity that you see present in these other fight scenes that I will put on screen as an example for you, and with probably a lot of text that you're probably going to have to pause to read, so I apologize in advance. If we infused a bit more of that into more of her fight scenes, and honestly more of the fight scenes in Naruto, period, because they do really have a problem with just pausing for really long, absurd amounts of time. Another issue with her skill set is that in the story we are verbally told that she has monster strength and can hit much harder than other people. But in practice, a lot of other characters can hit just as hard and leave craters just as big as she can. So her actual abilities don't really read as unique. This is partially just power crawl and not accounting for how it makes Sakura and by extension Tsunade look. Tsunade's abilities are unique upon introduction, but after the time skip to Shippuden, it seems like everyone can punch craters except for like Shikamaru. There's a difference in application for sure. Most characters don't hit that hard on every single swing, but it makes the whole monster strength technique a little bit flat, when Rock Lee can also do it on his own, apparently. So I think she may need some skills other than hit hard and heal people, because in the context of the world once we get to Shippuden, these are relatively basic abilities even if she is quote-unquote the best at them. Even the Strength of 100 seal, which is a jutsu that she learns from Tsunade, that allows her to regenerate from otherwise life-ending injury. When Naruto and one of the antagonists, Kabuto and whoever else, also have regenerative abilities, it starts to look a little bit less impressive. I think the seal needs a buff, and I want Sakura to regenerate Wolverine style, regrowing limbs and stuff like that. Her being able to do this would also make the claim that she has surpassed Tsunade by the end of the show sound less like a lie. And with her strength, instead of just being striking power, I think her power to lift and rip and tear should also be extremely high. Not only can she punch the door down, but she can grab a sheet of metal with her fist and peel it away like the skin of an onion. Especially considering the whole chakra control so good genjutsu is useless on her 90% of the time bit she's got going on, where in a world where some of the most prominent threats to the village are genjutsu users, she should be one of the big dogs. Instead of having Sakura be a genjutsu user, I like the idea of having her be like a genjutsu nullifier, where she can defend herself and potentially even wrestle control from other people's genjutsus as well as pull out her comrades. I think the genjutsu scene in Naruto, the last, where Sakura pulls her squad mates out of the genjutsu, plus occasionally taking over a genjutsu someone else cast, since genjutsu is essentially a chakra control battle, which means she should be able to slam dunk it like 90% of the time, would be a more interesting take on this ability. She can essentially nullify one of the most powerful abilities in the entire show just by being around. I think Sakura being not just resistant to genjutsu, but actively dangerous to cast a genjutsu on because she can turn it on the original caster would really help sell that she excels in this area. This gets a little weird because genjutsu was redonk in part 1, extremely overpowered, and then it got nerfed to hell and back in Shippuden. So while it would be kind of crazy at first, I think it would even out over time. I would also emphasize evasion more in her fighting style because that's a core tenet of being a medical ninja. Part 2.75 Relationship starting points. I think her relationship with Naruto, she should start out resentful and hostile and has to grow past it. I think that Sakura as a bookworm kid should be well read enough on village history also that she puts 2 and 2 together and figures out that Naruto is not just the Nine-Tails, but also the 4th Hokage's son, and does not tell him at first because she hates him, and later because now it's been too long and it's awkward to bring it up. I'd also tone down Naruto's crush on Sakura because he has a crush on her for like 700 episodes, thereabout. I would tone that down to make it a bit more subtle. Naruto's still about as subtle as a freight train, but just less literal yelling about it. So I'd do that, and I'd make their dynamic a little more mutual, where they're both bickering and sometimes tussle, instead of Naruto saying something fairly normal and then she sucker punches him. That sucks. I think Naruto and Sakura should mutually fight, like sibling style sometimes, instead of Sakura just hitting him and him not fighting back. I think they should be like shaking each other by the collar, you know, like like they should be like, no you, no you. As for Sasuke, I think we also need to tone down her crush on Sasuke, because it's fine that she likes him, just make her shut up about it. Also, she needs a reason to like him, because she doesn't really have a reason to like him. He's not fucking nice to her at all. He's pretty, he's easy on the eyes, and that's literally her only reason to like him, at least at first. She does not have a real good reason to have a crush on him. When it comes to the starting point of their relationship, it should be very neutral. Like when they first get assigned to Team 7, she doesn't feel any type of way about him in particular. And then during the Land of Waves arc, she develops a crush on him after spending time with him and learns to actually like his personality. Just a thought. And then I think she should not say anything about it. I think maybe it should be visually obvious to the audience from her mannerisms or the way she acts around him. Or maybe we cut to her blushing after something. I don't know. Whatever people do when they're in love or have crushes or whatever. But we can have that, and we can make it very obvious how she feels without her, like, yelling it from the mountaintops, because it's not, I don't like it. It doesn't serve any purpose. It doesn't really make her a better character. It doesn't really go anywhere. Like, it's kind of useless. Her initial relationship with Sasuke should be very ambivalent, neutral, whatever, and her starting point with Naruto should be openly hostile. And then by the end of the Land of Waves, she's starting to warm up to both of them. Sasuke faster than Naruto, but she is starting to warm up to both of them. During the Land of Waves arc, there could be an afternoon somewhere over the course of the mission where Naruto is off doing who knows what, Kakashi is injured, and therefore Sasuke and Sakura are on bridge builder guard duty alone together. Then they could have a couple of genuinely nice, positive interactions. I was a 12-year-old girl once, believe it or not. I had lots of 12-year-old girl classmates and friends, and in my experience, the strategy for crushes at that age was to lie and deny, hide it at all costs. So while I think it's fine for her crush to be obvious, I think the way she goes about vocalizing it should be pared back. It creates an interesting comparison to Naruto, who openly announces his feelings, and Sasuke, who hides them as best he can at all times. There's Sakura, expressing some feelings and not others, and despite trying to hide her emotions sometimes, they shine through anyway. Good poker face, bad poker face, not even really trying to hide anything face. That, combined with Sakura seeing Sasuke literally throwing himself into the line of fire to protect her and Naruto, could then lead to the beginnings of a crush. When it comes to Ino, who is her childhood friend / rival, their rivalry is initially over Sasuke, which is stupid, dumb, and boring, and I don't like it, and we're scrapping that immediately. I think Sakura and Ino's rivalry should be based on beating each other at being ninja and other weird, petty 12-year-old bullshit instead of a boy. I think we should actually have it be related to the fact that Ino is from a major clan and Sakura isn't from a clan at all, and so the rivalry spawns from Sakura trying to prove her wrong and Ino trying to protect her pride. I think her relationship with Kakashi, as her sensei at first, she should think he's weird and off-putting and doesn't respect him at first until we get to the end of the Land of Waves, which is already kind of what's canon, and I do like that. She doesn't really take him seriously and then has to learn to respect him. I think that's a decent arc for them to go through. But I would also like that because Sakura's parents died in the Nine Tails attack prior to the events of the show, I think the person who found baby Sakura alive in the rubble of that attack should be Kakashi. He should be the one who found baby Sakura. And he should remember because her hair is bright fucking pink and no one else in the show has pink hair. Why I think that should happen, I will tell you later. We've been over what I think her starting relationship point with Tsunade should be in their dynamic. And one more I'm going to add here to this section is Inoichi, who is Ino's dad. And I think Inoichi should be like the adult who intervened for orphan Sakura, in that he's the one helping her out, checking on her, inviting her over for dinner, making sure she's like at least kind of supervised. So regardless of how much his daughter is beefing with her, he still views her as his daughter's friend and wants to make sure she's not totally, without supervision or resources. So he's sort of like an ambient father figure for her. Part 3, The Land of Waves. So we are now going to go arc by arc for rewrites to her character. I'm going to be talking about the main arcs, primarily the ones that affect the through-line plot of the story, and it also, because it makes my sections a lot easier to divide. I will still discuss filler because it is still part of the show, even if it's not quote-unquote canon. It's canon to me. Fuck you all, the ostrich is canon to me. But I won't be covering all of it in the same amount of depth just because it doesn't impact the actual plot of the show, really, but like definitionally. The Land of Waves arc is the first true arc of the show, and it is Team 7 getting their first real mission that isn't catching like runaway cats or whatever, and it quickly turns out to be much more than they bargained for when the man who was a bridge builder that they are escorting, who paid for a much lower rank mission, turns out to have been targeted by some very high rank assassins, and so it turns out that this is actually a way more dangerous mission than anybody realized at first. The first thing that sticks out to me about this arc is sort of stupid and benign, but there's like this whole section where they do like really bad exposition about what a Kage is, which is like really weird because obviously Naruto's entire goal in life is to be Hokage, and everyone's from the Leaf Village, so they know what the Hokage is, and all of the 5 villages have a Kage, the Mizukage, the Tsuchikage, etc. But somehow, despite being recent academy graduates, they do not grasp what the Hokage functionally is. Like, it's one thing for Naruto to have shoddy geography, but miss top of her class in academics having a slippery understanding of one of the most basic and physically observable facts about their society is downright goofy.
Is that all, man? Really such a big deal? I'm not buying it.
It's all just exposition for the audience functionally. It's not even meant to be characterization, but it's so stupid. They have their first real battle with real enemies who want to kill them in this arc when they get attacked while escorting the bridge builder back to his home. And Naruto and Sakura both freeze up. Sakura a little bit less than Naruto, but they both freeze up while Sasuke, who has witnessed gruesome violence on repeat in a torture genjutsu, is barely phased. This is good characterization. The issue is that over the course of the arc, Naruto gradually acclimates while Sakura stays stagnant. Her characterization is at its most bizarre in this arc. She's got this outspoken, brazen attitude and has grit and initiative that is just nowhere to be found a few episodes later, and has a very different energy that the rest of the show just does not carry with it. I think it's just another example of the issue I was talking about earlier, and that like there was no plan for her. There was no designated character arc for her or origin for her, anything for her. She's just like cute girl. And so her personality in the beginning of Naruto is actually very inconsistent because of that. The Land of Waves arc starts episode 6, and the Chunin exam starts episode 20, which is the next arc. And that's unusually fast pacing by shonen standards. Tournament arcs are sort of a season 2 staple, with at least 2 story arcs preceding them, unless the premise of the show itself is a tournament. Think Yu-Gi-Oh! My Hero Academia had one season 2, Fairy Tail didn't have one until hundreds of episodes later in a time skip. Ruby had one season 3, not really an anime, but I'm counting it because they wanted to be an anime so fucking bad. The Chunin exams are tied to a major status quo shift too, because they literally get invaded by the Sound Village at the end of that arc. So the Land of Waves arc feels very isolated in the grand scheme of Naruto's story. It's a smaller scale story localized to one area that introduces certain concepts about the world but isn't very connected to a larger conspiracy or storyline, and therefore gives the characters and theming more time and space to breathe. Naruto in general could have used a bit more of this. After the Chunin exams, every arc is pretty high stakes. But I bring this up because while Naruto and Sasuke and Kakashi's characterizations within this arc, despite its isolation, carry over to the rest of the show, Sakura's doesn't. Her characterization during this arc feels just as isolated as the arc itself. And to be clear, I'm aware that most of these structural things stem from the woes of adapting a manga that is ongoing and publishing manga chapters at a weekly pace that is pretty brutal means that hindsight is 20/20 on some of these things, but I still think it's worth bringing up. If we cut out all of the flashbacks to events that already happened in the show, not flashbacks to new information, by my slightly haphazard calculations based on average length of these flashbacks, the show would be up to 10 to 15 full episodes shorter, around 5 or 6 hours. And this is without touching Shippuden whatsoever. Naruto is in the unique and magical position of being simultaneously paced too quickly and too slowly. Major world-changing arcs happen close together and often without giving all of the characters a chance to fully react to it, but the episodes themselves are often paced at a snail's crawl filled with flashbacks to dialogue we just watched 4 minutes ago. So with that said, the Land of Waves arc is unique in that it, while still suffering from some of the general pacing problems, lets Team 7 react to their circumstances and have opinions on the things happening around them, which is good for the characters. If we take the I just work here and I don't even want employee of the month kind of attitude and combine it with the whole C rank mission turned A rank situation, it gives Sakura an actual perspective on the events playing out instead of just being a passive observer. She's sort of just along for the ride originally, so Sakura being a smidge grumpy that this is way more than she signed up for and is totally above her pay grade would be an improvement. Alongside her gradual attitude shift, I think an afternoon or a short outing where Sakura moves from being sort of lukewarm on Sasuke to comfortable around him, and Sasuke starts acting a bit more comfortable around her too. They can have a little moment where they're making tea or something and they realize they like the same kind. Whatever, like, it doesn't have to be like super intimate, it could just be something mundane like that. And I think she should also start thawing on Naruto a bit after spending more time with him, because she finds it hard to stay antagonistic towards someone so goofy and earnest. During the final confrontation of this arc, when they're on the bridge, we officially have arrived at patient 0 of Sakura stands around and does nothing itis. Naruto fights off the mercenaries at the house that they were staying at, and then he fights Haku, the subordinate of the main assassin Zabuza that they fight during this fight. And Sasuke also fights Haku before Naruto fights Haku. And then Kakashi fights Zabuza. Sakura throws one knife that does nothing. And it doesn't help that we frequently cut back to her just standing around. We couldn't even had some of the goons come around the back and go for the bridge builder so she could like fight and defend him. She's just like, oh yeah, I believe in you guys. I'll go stand over here. And she's actually standing behind Tazuna in several shots. Tazuna is looking out for her more than she's guarding him. The way Sakura goes about protecting Tazuna from the multiple enemies around them while being all alone and none too powerful herself would expand her agency and just make her a little bit cooler. I think we can still stay with the starting point in this scene that it's the first time she's really been on her own in a real fight. Like, she's dedicated to using what she has and ending the fight as quickly as possible because she doesn't have endless resources. Maybe because the foundational principle of breaking a genjutsu is disrupting one's own chakra network, Sakura finds a way to use her superior control to disrupt other people's chakra or reverse its flow in a way that temporarily stuns the enemy long enough to fire off a kunai or two or trap or a genjutsu or a transformation or something. Like, we can have some goons go after Tazuna and she uses these abilities to defend him, or she uses a transformation jutsu to make Sakura and Tazuna switch appearances so the goons go after the wrong person. Make it just one guy and she surprises him by being able to outbox him in a plain old fist fight all on her own because she uses her appearance as a small cute girl to get her opponents to underestimate her. Her warming up to her team and genuinely wanting to help the townspeople can then be the first stage of her character development of treating being a ninja as more than strictly just a job. Seeing Sasuke severely injured and possibly dead is a chance to demonstrate her realization of, oh my god, I actually do like this guy, and seeing the way Naruto had so much empathy even for his enemies helps her reconsider her stance on him. Another goal with some of these rewrites is going to be that I want Team 7 to actually come off as much more authentically close to each other. And part of this is because they go on like one real mission to the Land of Waves, and then they take the tuning exams, and then all hell breaks loose, and then Sasuke defects. And so they are not a team for very long at all. We don't get very long to spend with them as a 4-man squad, like the original Team 7. Like half of original Naruto Sasuke just gone after that. So Sakura and Naruto very much feel close, and Kakashi very much feels close to the two of them, but Sasuke feels very much outside of the other 3 members in terms of closeness, and that hurts Shippuden later because it's a little bit of a stretch for everybody to care about him as much as they do. Like, it doesn't land as well as it could, I guess that's my point. Like, it's not the worst thing in the world, but I think if we had taken a little bit more time during the Land of Waves, during the tuning exams, to make it clear that even if they bicker sometimes, these 3 are like genuinely friends and they genuinely like each other. Especially if we do like the stuff I mentioned earlier with the orphan gang. She's part of our orphan gang, and we're gonna go cook dinner together, or we're gonna do whatever family event that you would normally do with your parents with the 3 of us instead, or even the 4 of us instead. And that could establish a more like clear sense of family between the 4 of them. They just don't spend very much time together, and the time they do spend together, they are not necessarily always on good terms. So it's in order to make the Sasuke defection and eventual like several attempts at retrieval feel more earned and feel more grounded emotionally to the characters. Part 4, the Forest of Death. Team 7 takes the exams to advance to the next rank of ninja, being Chunin, which is a 3-stage test. Oops, I hit the mic. There's a written exam, a survival exam, and a one-on-one combat exam. We're going to gloss over the first stages of the exam because aside from our personality changes being applied, I really wouldn't change that much about how it plays out. I like that each member of Team 7 solves the situation of the impossible written test differently. While Sasuke figures out how to cheat, Naruto doesn't answer a single question, and Sakura just filling it out normally like it's Algebra 2 or something. We'll also discuss the 3rd stage in depth later, but for now I want to focus on the 2nd stage, the Forest of Death, the survival test. We are going to take extra time for one scene in particular, because it is the central nexus of wasted Sakura potential. Like, the premise was good, and the execution tripped over its own feet and into a pit of quicksand. Sakura gets cornered halfway through the survival exam, which is a 3-day survival test in a forest of death. That's what it's called. Lots of deadly things in there, if you could imagine that. They have to get one of each kind of scroll, and every team starts with one, and they have to attack other teams to get the second scroll. It's a whole thing. It doesn't really matter for our purposes, but that's what the test is. She gets cornered halfway through this exam after both Naruto and Sasuke are down for the count out cold, and she has to protect them alone in a forest full of enemy teams, kind of, because a bunch of other people step in and handle it for her. And I really don't like this scene. She is guarding the 2 unconscious bodies of her teammates when a 3-man squad of ninja attacks them and goes after her whole team. And I think she should win, or mostly win, that fight by the skin of her teeth. And then Sasuke, who has received a chakra curse mark from Orochimaru, who is like the big bad at this point in the show because he's like a rogue ninja who does human experiments. He got bitten by Orochimaru, like he's a fruit bat or something, and that's why he's unconscious right now, is because he has the super evil curse mark. She should mostly win the fight, or be very close to winning the fight. And then Sasuke wakes up and takes out the last guy and tries to kill the 2 that are already down because the curse mark is making him crazy. And then Sakura is like, please stop and don't kill people who are already unconscious. Because as it stands, in the original, no less than 6 people stepped in to help in some capacity over the course of this fight, and she still doesn't manage to take down a single enemy. That's sort of embarrassing. Lee steps in. Team 8 steps in. Is that Team 8 or are they Team 10? Inoshika Cho. They step in, all 3 of them. And then the rest of Lee's team shows up. And then Sasuke shows up. Or wakes up. And it's like, not only does she not take down a single enemy, half a dozen people intervene on her behalf also. So I would actually want to have her kill one of the sound ninjas, the 3-man squad that attacks them, during this fight, and then have her behave like a neurotic coyote for the rest of the test, and throughout her fight in the first preliminary round leading up to the finals. And then Kakashi can notice that something's off with her, and they have a heartfelt conversation about what it's like to kill someone, and it gives Kakashi a sensei moment, and also creates some narrative contrast with the other two members of Team 7. Like, despite Naruto's rose-tinted view of her and Sasuke's dismissal of her and self-imposed edginess, Sakura is the first on the team to actually kill. Could also potentially further differentiate her views on being a ninja between Sasuke's tunnel vision on revenge and Naruto's blinding optimism. You have Sakura's sobering reality of being a child soldier. This experience is the catalyst for Sakura to begin to switch from an I just work here mentality to one more focused on protecting her comrades and realizing she can't skate by on the bare minimum if she wants the people she's grown to love to stay alive. So I think one of them should be dead by Sakura's hand, the other should be unconscious, and she should be fighting the third when Sasuke wakes up and then tries to kill the remaining two. And then she stops him, as per usual. I would also remove the haircut scene during this fight as well, because one of them grabs Sakura's hair and then it's like, wow, you have such soft silky hair, you must be such a vain person. It's weird. I don't like it. It's weird. There are several things I dislike about this, so I'll just go through it in a very verbose and long-winded way. I think the implication that cutting your hair is such an enormous deal to girls despite life or death circumstances being a constant in their lives in this world is a smidge sexist. I think hair is very important. I think it is not irrational for people to really care about the length and style of their hair because hair is part of your self-presentation and it can be tied to a lot of other senses of confidence and self and gender even. And so I don't think it's silly to care about the way that your hair looks in the first place. But I also think when it's between a haircut or literal death, I think we like... I don't love that. But the thing I love even less is the fact that in this scene, and I'll put it up for you so you can see what I'm talking about, where the sound ninja is like gripping Sakura's hair with her fist. It's a little bit stupid because if you had an opening, you should stab your opponent in the hand, not give yourself a haircut. She would have also let go if you stabbed her in the hand. Sakura, that was not the only way. Like, I understand there's a symbolism around a big haircut signifying change and memories and whatnot, but she doesn't even really change much after this. As much as Naruto's world is based on Japan, we don't see anything culturally in Naruto's world about haircutting or what that means to a shinobi. Even Ino's later haircut is more of a whim. Also, the character making fun of how long Sakura's hair is had hair almost twice as long as Sakura's. If you want to make Sakura come off as vain, it could have been done well if handled intentionally, but the story never really unpacks Sakura's relationship with self-image or her appearance or her vanity. She just is that way for a while and then she's not. No development, no dealing with that part of herself, and seeing as it doesn't tie into the other aspects of the themes or world of Naruto, I don't know why we need to keep it. Hell, Ino is portrayed as even more vain than Sakura, and she's also stated to be the most capable kunoichi of their class, so it's not even a matter of it affecting her work. With that context, I have the possibly controversial take of let's keep her hair long for now. She can still cut it, but just like later on her own as a choice, possibly symbolizing metamorphosis, like more intentionally. I don't like this scene. This scene, bad, in my personal, humble, subjective opinion. I will say this also probably stems from a fair amount of personal bias as a person with really long hair, because I'm a little bit tired of the trope that having long hair is somehow selfish or vapid. Like, it just grows on you. You don't even have to do anything. Why is letting your hair grow out more vain than getting a haircut every month? Why are you trying to convince me that I'm selfish for having long hair and that I need to cut it off and donate it to a bald person? This is a real conversation I've had. There are so many male characters with much more and much longer hair than Sakura, so it just feels bizarre to single her out over it. Plus, she's a repeat fuck-ass bob offender, and like not in a fierce way. The way her bob is drawn in the anime is like really, really inconsistent. Sometimes it actually looks cute, and a lot of the time it doesn't. It is actually really serving isosceles triangle. I really think in the art style her bob needed a different silhouette. I hate the isosceles triangle fuck-ass bob. I don't like it. I like when her bob has a little more volume and it's a little more round. Additionally, we know misogyny is explicitly canon in Naruto from some of Shikamaru's Genin dialogue, and also Kakashi's sexist ninja dog.
You really are such a loudmouthed female.
So I think you could also have Sakura keep her hair long out of spite towards the people who gave her shit for it. A tiny act of defiance to wear her hair the way she wants instead of it being an attempt to get Sasuke's attention originally, because originally she had long hair because she had heard through hearsay that Sasuke liked girls with long hair, as if Mr. Cool Guy over here would ever be discussing something like that out loud in the first place, but whatever. I would add too a little bit of insight or clarification that the reason that Sasuke wakes up when he does during the fight is because he hears Sakura suffering and claws his way back to consciousness out of desperation to help her, and then the curse mark takes advantage of his weakened state to manifest. As it stands, it does read as potentially a coincidence that he woke up when he did, and just kind of felt like a little murder because of the curse mark. We get a hint of something, and that he does want to know who hurt her and only goes after people hurting Sakura, and that she is able to calm him down as he's on his murder spree. It is also a little bit funny that there's so many people in this scene that he has to ask her who to go after.
Tell me, which one of these people did this to you?
Alright. Part 5. The Search for Tsunade / Sasuke Retrieval Arc. At the end of the Chunin exams, the village hidden in the leaves, Konoha, gets invaded / attacked by the sound and sand villages, but Orochimaru was behind it all, and he manipulated the sand into joining the sound to attack the leaf. It's a whole thing, and they kill the president. The third Hokage dies in the attack, and once the dust settles, Naruto sets out with Jiraiya, one of the other Sannin, to find Tsunade, another member of the Sannin, alongside Orochimaru. They're the three Sannin, to ask Tsunade to be the next Hokage. Sasuke's evil older brother is now after Naruto, however, and tries to go after him at the beginning of this arc until Sasuke and Jiraiya interfere. Mostly Jiraiya, though Sasuke is not really that helpful. So, to start, my simple change here is that while Naruto and Jiraiya are out searching for Tsunade, or have begun to search, Sakura goes with Sasuke to the outpost town where they find Naruto, and when they get there, in the original, Itachi uses his evil genjutsu called Tsukuyomi on Sasuke, and like beats the fuck out of him too, also. But in our version, Sasuke and Sakura go to the hotel where Naruto and Jiraiya are staying together to warn Naruto, and Itachi then uses the Tsukuyomi on Sakura in front of Sasuke before he Tsukuyomi Sasuke. So Sasuke double freaks out because it's Itachi and Sakura's down. Then he gets his ass beat like normal, and then they're both in the hospital while Naruto looks for Tsunade for the rest of the arc. And I think Sakura, while still affected, should wake up on her own before Sasuke to demonstrate her genjutsu resilience. Like, she was able to partially deflect or defend, so she's a little bit less worse for wear than Sasuke. Sakura gets a little trauma, and then gets to be part of the plot. She gets a bit of medical attention from Tsunade once she's found and brought back to the village, and because she's the first one up, she gets to see everything Tsunade is able to do for her team and Lee, who got hurt during the Chunin exams, and this kindles admiration for Tsunade. Also, our version of Sakura can relate to Tsunade's begrudging attitude and feels a kinship with her. When Sasuke wakes up and he has a line like, "Where's Sakura?" Where is she?
Where are they?
Fucking Trevor.
Fucking Trevor!
That's not what it is. It's not those, but it's something like that. He wakes up and he has a line of dialogue like, "Where's Sakura? What happened to Sakura?" Because he's still worried about her, because that's the last thing he remembers before he got. But when he finds out she woke up on her own and he didn't, it compounds his existing feeling of weakness and inadequacy post-Itachi confrontation. That's all for the Tsunade search arc. For the Sasuke retrieval arc, Sasuke leaves the village because he's spiraling after seeing his brother for the first time in years, and remember his brother killed his whole family, and then he had a confrontation that he was kind of he's kind of useless in that confrontation. He kind of got his ass beat. So the third Sannin, Orochimaru, who orchestrated the invasion, has promised him power via the curse mark we discussed earlier, and so Sasuke is giving into temptation and trying to defect from the village to go to Orochimaru to gain aforementioned power, but it is kind of a false promise because Orochimaru is in pursuit of immortality, and he body hops, and he wants to use Sasuke as a host body, but Sasuke goes anyway. So right before Sasuke leaves, he has this fight with Naruto on the roof of the hospital. Kakashi has to break it up, and Sakura just kind of like cries about it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what to do about this scene. I mean, like, I feel like she should still be there. But I think instead of just crying and being like, no, stop, she should probably be more like, what the hell is wrong with you guys? Stop, knock it off. You know, just a little bit more like exasperated in her attitude, because that's our characterization that we've built for her so far. I still think Kakashi should be the one to actually break it up so he can have his like mentor moment, because post-fight Jiraiya and Naruto have a little heart-to-heart, and Sasuke and Kakashi have a heart-to-heart sort of. It's really more of like a hostage situation, but whatever. And I think during this time, while the boys are off having these conversations, Sakura should have her first in-depth conversation with Tsunade after she goes back downstairs from the roof into the hospital, and they can have a talk about just anything. It doesn't even have to be like their deepest, darkest secrets. It can just be like, what was all that commotion upstairs? And Sakura being like, you are not going to believe this. And then they talk about it. Or Tsunade comforting her, or Sakura telling her that she's grateful or respects what she was able to do medically for her friends. Whatever. Like, they just have like a earnest conversation where it's just the two of them, so we can establish a relationship between them. There's this bench scene later where Sasuke knocks Sakura out. We're gonna put in that for later, because it's when he's leaving the village. But essentially, I want her to be chomping at the bit to go after him and bring him back, instead of just like depressed afterward like she is in the original story. I want her to react more severely to him leaving and kind of be really angry about it. And I think she should have gone on the retrieval mission. She had a much greater investment in pursuing him, and she has to sit it out for no real reason other than being underdeveloped skill-wise compared to the rest of the Konoha 11, which is a writing issue. So if we do it my way, she would be plenty strong enough to at least participate in this mission. Remember, this is Genjutsu Terminator Sakura, who doesn't play with her food ever. This would be the first mission she's ever been truly serious about, compared to her reluctance in the Land of Waves and her panic in the Chunin exams and Sound Invasion. Sasuke retrieval is another example of Sakura getting divorced from the plot and sitting around for about 30 episodes. We literally don't have to do that. She cries at least once per episode for like a 5-episode streak around here. It's heinous. Truly. I support crying while doing things, but I don't support crying about the same thing on multiple occasions without ever doing anything about it as a writing choice. We don't even have to have her take the place of one of the squad members to have a fight or to be a part of this arc. There's already so many people here, you could just staple her on top of the existing team, honestly. Speaking of, let's talk about the squad for this mission. Naruto goes, obviously, and Shikamaru is there to have his first test as a leader in the field and to reconcile a little with Temari, who he fought during the Chunin exams, when she and the rest of the Sand Shinobi sent as backup show up. And the Sand siblings, who are sent as backup, are there to illustrate the changing political allegiance of their village. Rock Lee is present as his first post-surgery mission, and because of his narrative ties to Gaara. Neji is there to demonstrate his recent Naruto-inspired character growth. Kiba is a tracker. Why the hell is Choji there? I get letting him have a character moment, and I think the way the relationship between him and Shikamaru is fleshed out is very sweet, but given this mission is about Sasuke and Sakura is a main character, I think we need to reorient some priorities. This squad is the Konoha 11, except for the girls and Shino.
It's hard being the only one who's not part of the team.
Even the recently crippled Rock Lee manages to show up. Even the Sand siblings are here. Why is one of our main trio just benched? The optics here are kind of bad, I have to say. I don't even really think it was intentional, but when it's this blatant, it's just like, it's a bad look. Like, everybody else is here. And the fact that well into Shippuden, Shino complains about being left out of the mission, and the running joke is supposed to be that he was the only one left out, when Ino, Tenten, Hinata, and Sakura also didn't go on the mission. It's just kind of an indictment of how the narrative routinely treats the women in the story as a different and separate category from the rest of the characters. Like, look at this shot. This is great. Imagine if Sakura was here. She could pull up as reinforcements with Lee, she could help him sneak out of the hospital, and they could show up together, and they get to have this moment where she can, demonstrate initiative and drive as a ninja for the first time. They can take over fighting Imimaru, one of the sound ninja, trying to deter them from catching up to Sasuke. We can get a taste of Sakura really fighting, like she wants to kill somebody, and then when Gaara shows up to give support, Sakura can leave to chase after Naruto and Sasuke, so Lee and Gaara can still have their moment that they have fighting Kimimaro, and then she can have trouble finding the trail until Kakashi's dogs, who are also tracking Naruto and Sasuke, show up, and then she can head for the intercept with Kakashi together. Naruto and Sasuke have this big fight, and then Sasuke leaves and defects from the village, so this mission was a failure. There's this shot and it's like raining and there's a guitar solo and the sunrise and everyone from Team 7 is here except for Sakura, and it's just this serious, sober moment. It's just great. Imagine if Sakura was here. I think there are some scenes after this too when they return to the village where Tsunade is giving medical treatment to the severely injured members of the team post-mission. Those scenes, I think, that are really interesting because this is another chance for Sakura to express interest or involvement with medicine by being impressed by the difference that having Tsunade around is able to make to the survival rate of these missions. This arc also has this random, like, Mafia AU opening. Like, riddle me that. Like, what was that about? Half of them are in suits, the other half are in streetwear. Like, are they rival gangs? What's going on? It's just the boys, too. Everyone else is dressed normally. It's just like random AU rival gang opening. Are those gang signs?
Those look like gang signs, Sasuke!
Part 5.5, Inner Sakura. So we haven't addressed this much yet, but we do need to iron out what we really think of Inner Sakura and, like, what to do with her. The only time it really comes up in a way that matters to the story is in her preliminary fight with Ino in the 3rd round of the Chunin exams. My explanation for this, we could ignore it for the rest of the video, is that her insanely precise chakra control allows her to form an inner chakra being while Ino is trying to mind transfer into her. This chakra being is then what pushes Ino out during the fight. Because our version is beleaguered but honest for the most part, it's difficult to reconcile Inner Sakura with that. Especially once Shippuden begins, it really starts to feel out of place. So I think the easiest solution is to just forego it completely. And as much as I do very much enjoy takes on the story that center it more, it just doesn't really fit here with everything else I've suggested. Part 6, Kakashi bonding. So after the Sasuke retrieval arc and then a bunch of filler, there's a 2-year time skip where Sasuke's off with Orochimaru and Naruto is traveling with Jiraiya to train and hide because some people are after him because the whole 9-tailed fox sealed inside of him bit. And the next 2 sections are what I think should have happened during that time, or 3 sections, kind of. First up is her very underdeveloped relationship with Kakashi. They should hang out during the time skip. Why does Kakashi act like he hasn't seen her ass since Naruto left at the beginning of Shippuden? Like, you were here. Kakashi has his dynamic with Naruto and Sasuke framed through seeing himself in his own previous team from his childhood in his new team that he teaches as Genin. He sees himself in Sasuke, and he sees his former teammate Obito and his former sensei, who was Naruto's dad, in Naruto, which is fairly interesting in regards to how much his relationship to them may be partially contextualized by guilt. But this framing leaves me wondering how we should frame his dynamic with Sakura. I don't think the whole Rin equals Sakura thing tracks at all, Rin being the female teammate alongside Kakashi and Obito from their 3-man squad. I don't think it tracks at all because the only thing they really have in common is that they're both girls and medics, and we know that that doesn't really mean anything because every female ninja in Konoha is a medic. Sort of an accidentally progressive moment that you have a society with 90% female doctors, but I digress. Rin is also a Jinchuriki / host for a sealed beast, much like Naruto, for a period of time, and so in some ways she has a lot more in common with Naruto than she does with Sakura. So Kakashi sees himself in Sasuke and then sees the rest of his team, Rin, Minato, Obito, in Naruto, and just nothing for Sakura. No contextualizing framework. I think establishing a unique dynamic with Sakura could make up for the weaker thematic framing. Whether he's more protective and paternal towards her, or maybe more awkward because he only really knows how to communicate with soldiers and extremely emotionally stunted children. Something. We could potentially swing Kakashi being overprotective of Sakura compared to the boys because of the whole Rin thing, where she died tragically, spoilers. This whole thing is why I want him to be the one who pulls her from the rubble of the Nine-Tails attack when she's an infant. It gives them a similar connection to the one Kakashi has to Naruto and Sasuke, because Kakashi watched over pregnant Kushina, Naruto's mom, and guarded her, and he was Itachi's squad captain when he was in the Anbu and knew him reasonably well. So he has these connections to Naruto and Sasuke and to their parental figures, and just none to Sakura. I think we need more substance between them, and I think this by the start of Shippuden, Sakura and Kakashi should be almost father-daughter levels of close because of the last 2 years spent together. With the other two members of Team 7 out of the village, Kakashi wouldn't have to worry about playing favorites and can give Sakura his full attention. I would have her apartment be destroyed in the sound invasion, actually, and then orphan Sakura, who lives alone and had her apartment destroyed, then lives with Kakashi for a period of time before finding her own place again. Sakura is then very close with Kakashi and Pakun the dog, too, by the start of Shippuden, and Naruto can comment on it when he gets back. Sakura is like a chance for Kakashi to finally do right by his team. Naruto has the whole Nine-Tails thing happening and Sasuke's got his revenge, but Sakura doesn't have the same cosmic baggage and stays put in the village. Awkward single father Kakashi, who canonically likes to cook and is very good at it, then seizes on the chance to be present for her. He's feeling guilty about Sasuke defecting while under his supervision and is perhaps a little over-present for Sakura to compensate, and then the two of them can deal with Kakashi's guilt and Sakura's lack of stable parental figure together. She's had Inoichi and she had Tsunade, but Inoichi has his own family and Tsunade has a village to run. Kakashi has a small smattering of friends and his husband Might Guy, but is otherwise unoccupied, and therefore in a perfect position to assume a more significant role in Sakura's life during the time skip. He's still Kakashi, and he's still sort of flaky, but they're buddies. I think Sakura should also spend some time with Inoichi during this period too, but Naruto and Sasuke each have multiple mentor figures outside of their respective Sannin, while Sakura just has Tsunade. I don't want to take someone else's sensei, otherwise I'd say she should train with Kurenai, but for the time being, I think she should also have Inoichi present as a mentor figure alongside Kakashi and Tsunade during the time skip. Part 7. Sakura has two moms. Part of the reason I think it's so easy to slide Sakura into orphan status in a rewrite is because her family is so insignificant. Narratively, it seems she was raised a lot more by Tsunade, Shizune, and Kakashi than her actual parents. So in my version, where Sakura is actually just on her own, we have the wonderful opportunity to explore her relationship with Tsunade as a mentor in that context. Team 7 is a certified found family in my version, and found family is sort of a theme in Naruto. I would argue it's more harmful family legacies and bonds between people rather than specifically constructing your own family from scratch, and Boruto is definitely not about that unless you count Sasuke and Naruto ignoring their families to hang out. Boruto's insistence upon the nuclear family compared to early Naruto's critical take on family power structures is actually a really odd choice that I'm still not really over. But anywho, our orphan gang found family Team 7 fracturing with both Sasuke and Naruto's departures from the village, leaving Sakura in the care of the alcoholic and almost certainly sapphic head of state, since her sort of flaky, dog-obsessed millennial dad is in and out presumably on missions, gives us a chance for some serious character growth where Sakura can reevaluate what her goals are and where she stands with her team now that she has some space from them. I've mentioned this before, but I want her to be a lot angrier about Sasuke defecting. I think her frustration stemming from both how much she cares about him and how stupid a choice she views it as is a better angle than just sad. Sakura having a complicated opinion on Sasuke's choices makes her feel more grounded, thinking about how there were plenty of strong ninja in the village and how Orochimaru wasn't the only option strictly speaking, and being angry about him knocking her out and leaving her on a bench in the middle of the night in the cold, being angry that Sasuke is going away with the guy who killed so many Leaf Ninja and civilians. I think potentially we could also have Sakura lose someone in the invasion, maybe just a neighbor or the shopkeeper like we mentioned before, but still has a very complicated relationship and feeling about Sasuke defecting and joining up with the guy who caused the death of someone she cares about. She then spends a significant amount of her training trying to sort out her anger towards him, combined with the fact that she still cares about him and wants him to come home. The other thing she's grappling with during this time is that as soon as she really started taking the ninja life seriously, her whole team up and left. Naruto optimistically wants his friend back, and Sakura does too, but her motives are also mixed up with bringing him back out of spite because she felt personally burned by him in more than one way. Plus, having Tsunade uncover something about the Uchiha massacre, like some documents from the third whose office wasn't really cleaned out before she got there, that are heavily redacted but raise questions about what really happened that night at the massacre. Like, why was every single Uchiha home that night? Like, no one was on a mission or at the club or something? Why are some of the medical records missing? Or why is this redacted document about the Uchiha massacre formatted like an order from the Hokage when it's dated before the massacre? Not the full story by far, but something that Sakura would see because of her proximity to Tsunade that would be questionable enough to add fuel to wanting to get Sasuke back because he's on a revenge quest while potentially missing information. Like, Sakura doesn't really find out what went down, but figures out that Itachi may not have acted entirely alone. Or she finds out that Danzo and Orochimaru were well acquainted before Orochimaru defected. I want Tsunade's backstory to be a little different while we're at it too, wherein she's generally disillusioned with the entire military system during her time in the war, and hits her limit when her little brother dies young on the battlefield. Instead of blaming a cursed magic necklace, remember that? We could have the problem be that her little brother was sent on a mission that a kid had zero business being on whatsoever and paid with his life. It's already confirmed that because her little brother was literally 12 years old and had nepo baby hubris, that he had an underdeveloped sense of caution and wasn't prepared for war. Like most 6th graders. Tsunade then leaves it all behind after the war because she doesn't believe she can fight the corruption. She gets shut down multiple times even though the ninja president is her sensei and she's got Hokage's grandchild nepotism. She still can't fix the system in the ways that she wants to prevent things like this from ever happening again. No boyfriend shenanigans, I did not like him. Just get him out of here. Her old backstory was low-key just listening to people less qualified than her go on about wanting to be president. Like, her little brother was one thing, but Dan, whatever his name is, telling a Sani that he wants to be Hokage always makes me laugh. Like, get in line, buddy. He felt flat and not compelling to me, and I think if we expand on Tsunade's little brother's death, because he died young and tragic, he was 12 and the body was unrecognizable. They had to use the necklace to identify it. Gruesome. If we flesh that out a bit more, we don't need Dan. I know this would also require changing why Shizune is with Tsunade, because Shizune is Don's niece, but I think it's fairly easy to workshop her into a purely just a student of Tsunade's. Tsunade then gets her full circle moment when coming back to the village and being in a new position as Hokage, where she has the power to change things in a way she didn't before. It's not the middle of a war anymore, and the third Hokage isn't around to shut down her vision for change is impractical. So Tsunade can finally start the changes she wanted to see. However, the mess she inherits is what she has to deal with first. The way the third Hokage had a bad habit of letting things fester instead of dealing with them, potentially stemming from the same mindset that led him to be overly adverse to changing the system during the war. Orochimaru, Danzo, Itachi, the Uchiha insurrection, etc. are all things that came to be problems because the third Hokage didn't step in enough. She also has this fear of blood when she's first introduced that I think is kind of dumb, because it's hard to believe that someone who menstruates, and likely has for many years while on the road, even if she hit menopause early, would be physically paralyzed by the sight of blood. She'd never get anything done. 1 drop and you're quaking? Like, I get balking at open wounds in a way she didn't used to, but this is ridiculous. What happens when she gets a paper cut? If this is how she reacts to 1 drop of blood, what does she do when she sees an actual cut? Vaporize? It's so extreme for someone who is literally a surgeon. And to be clear, I think there's a way to write a fear of blood, and I don't think this is it. Especially because she just sort of instantaneously gets over it once the story needs her to. You could potentially go somewhere with former surgeon who is now afraid of blood, but it's just her fear develops and is resolved at just the drop of a hat in a way that I find very unsatisfying, and so I don't really think it should be here. I think all of her reservations should stem from just not really wanting the responsibility and not really wanting to go back to the Leaf Village at first, instead of introducing this also fear of blood thing she has going on. It doesn't really make Tsunade's character better. She doesn't have it for most of her life. She develops it overnight, and then it's also solved at a certain point overnight, and it never comes up again ever. She's just completely fine immediately after that. We don't have her, like, working through it whatsoever, so I would just get rid of it. I really hate the mid-section of the Orochimaru fight she has, where she just sits around and cries. Like, surely there was another way to introduce tension that didn't involve making a member of the Sannin act like this. To be clear, I'm not opposed to her crashing out or freaking out. Matter of fact, I would have loved it if she crashed out harder. Like full mental breakdown, lash out, but instead we got small dog on the 4th of July energy. The back third of this fight is pretty good though. One of my favorite characterizations for Tsunade is that she only wins at gambling when something's about to go very wrong. As soon as she starts making money at the slots, it's bad news, like an old person sensing a storm coming in their joints.
I won. And first prize, too.
Shizune, get in here!
That and her full willingness to beat the hell out of a 12-year-old for fun. She's so awesome. She can't resist arguing with kids. She's so real.
Tell me that again!
Oh, yeah?
But to bring it back to Sakura, being the protege of a woman who is compassionate and capable but also has some very bad habits and a morally dubious history really ought to come up more. Tsunade bringing about a level of stability and direction that Sakura has never had while also precipitating her worst habits. Tsunade is not straight-laced by any stretch of the imagination, but the results of being trained by someone like that are never really explored in Sakura. The closest we get is Sakura punching a big hole and somebody saying, "Wow, she's just like you. Girl, punch hard? You've created a monster." Which, the tone of "don't you just hate it when a woman is physically strong" comes up a couple times, and I think that bit is unfunny at best. Looking at you, Kabuto.
She's strong and terrifying.
She must be single, no doubt.
Sakura having a looser moral code than Naruto, potentially beginning with her attitude of do whatever it takes to survive and her first kill in the Forest of Death, and developing further under her studying under Tsunade as she deals with the mess of politics, means that there would be many different situations in the story where Sakura and Naruto have very different approaches. One of my favorite Tsunade scenes is when she swats off all of the third Hokage's grandson's traps when he barricades himself in the Hokage's office after she becomes Hokage. And she just busts in there and swats everything off to grab a random binder and then leaves without saying a word and just does not GAF about his tantrum. It's so diva. Tsunade doesn't mince words or entertain BS, but still has compassion underneath it all. And with our version of Sakura, it gives Sakura a good role model when it comes to shouldering more responsibility and taking ninja life more seriously, because Tsunade is having a parallel arc. Tsunade goes from not wanting anything to do with the Leaf Village to being Hokage, and Sakura goes from being along for the ride, do what you have to survive, to being the Hokage's apprentice and an essential part of the village's medical system. The potential here too for Sakura to pick up some of Tsunade's less than healthy coping mechanisms alongside all she gains from their relationship. The potential to abuse medical ninjutsu to regulate alcohol intake, potentially a habit she picks up from Tsunade, and that despite the fact that she's the most well-adjusted member of Team 7, that it doesn't always mean that she isn't affected by her life of violence, and it doesn't mean that she always copes in the healthiest of ways. Especially if you are a doctor or a medic where the lives of other people are in your hands. There's so much potential to do with the concept of a medic in this universe too. At the end of the day, Naruto is a shonen battle anime, so I focus a bit more on combat in order to involve her in the story, but in a military ninja society, a wizard doctor is maybe the most valuable person. I kind of wish Shizune got some more time to shine in general too, because her relationship as sort of a friend, older sister to Sakura is just not really that explored. Shizune is characterized in a very interesting way in the sense that despite having an undying loyalty to Tsunade, she doesn't seem to have very much faith in her. Between seriously believing Tsunade might betray the Leaf and heal Orochimaru during the Tsunade search arc, and then going behind Tsunade's back in Shippuden to tell the council about what Tsunade's been up to because she thought Naruto shouldn't get sent out on certain missions, which leads to Danzo, evil corruption politician man, getting way up in Tsunade and Naruto's business. She seems to actively question Tsunade's judgment even though Tsunade was making a decent play and prioritizing the right things both times. Shizune seems perpetually worried about Tsunade being short-sighted or selfish or not doing her job, when since becoming Hokage, Tsunade has been the complete opposite. Shizune also doubts whether or not Sakura will be able to de-escalate things between Naruto and Sai being an addition to Team 7 to take Sasuke's place in the squad, in episode 36 of Shippuden, because she thinks Sakura is becoming more and more like Tsunade. And she's wrong. Sakura smoothed things over 2 or 3 times before losing it on Sai, who she is correct to be suspicious of, and Sai was instigating. Shizune is an overthinker who is wrong like 80% of the time, and doesn't always believe in her boss as much as she should, which I think is very unique characterization for a trusted advisor or assistant character. Years on the road of watching Tsunade shirk responsibility in debt collectors, and then drink and gamble everything away had a long-lasting impact on Shizune's view of her. It goes away after a while in Shippuden because Shizune as a whole also kind of goes away after a while in Shippuden, but I do think that characterization for her was very interesting and I would have liked to see more of it. Also, one last note on Tsunade is I don't think she should take Ino on for even a brief period of time as a student. Ino should absolutely not get to train with Tsunade. The fact that both Ino and Sakura get taken on cheapens Tsunade's bond with Sakura. No one else has to share their Sannin. Sakura should not have to either. Part 8. Agency and Fights. I found this top 10 Sakura fights list, and number 10 is Sasuke trying to kill her and then Naruto saving her. They genuinely counted it as a fight. That's how little they had to work with. Well, only 2 of the fights on the list are Sakura 1v1 against a named character, being Ino and Sasori respectively. Sakura pointing a kunai at Gaara at the end of the Chunin exams is considered as a fight. It's actually so funny. Like, it's not the Library of Congress or anything, it's just a random pop culture website, but it's cracking me up. A lot of her best fights are from the movies, which sucks because they're mostly existent outside the purview of the main story. But her fight with Sasori is probably her one and only fight in this shonen anime that affects the plot, like at all. She's running support most of the time otherwise after the first arc of Shippuden. Sakura and Ino's fight during the preliminary 1v1 matches for the Chunin exams is boring, as well as the fact that they both pull their punches is not helping. It sucks, it's lame. They literally stop fighting at one point to just stare at each other, and then they have a flashback about picking flowers. They stop fighting a second time so Sakura can explain Ino's jutsu out loud. It's just so unexciting. Swagless. Naruto has pacing problems, period.
Alright guys, gather all these stampeding plants for me!
But it's especially egregious here because the fight's not very interesting either. This isn't even important, but she talks about how stylish Ino is in one of the flashbacks, and she's just kind of not. Like, there are worse fashion crimes in the show by far, but every time Ino is out of her traditional ninja gear, she's always wearing like a fuck-ass orange t-shirt, and I hate it. She is not dripped out, don't lie to me. After this fight, Sakura legitimately has nothing to do for like 25 episodes, and it's also her first fight against a named character that has any relevance to the plot whatsoever, and then it ends in a draw and goes nowhere. And then afterwards she has nothing to do for 25 episodes, like I just said. All she does is go to the flower shop and visit other people in the hospital, which she ends up failing at half the time because the other characters are plot important and keep leaving their hospital rooms.
Sasuke! All of his clothes are gone! Lee?
Oh no, not Lee too.
Boys like that, always pushing things too far. I'm not a boy. Right.
That's another thing, is that the massive stretches of runtime where Naruto and Sasuke are off doing their own thing, even if they're off screen, they're still established to be working towards something, or on some side quest, but Sakura is usually doing things like wandering around and making small talk. I want Sakura to fight brutal, and I think her fight with Ino is a good place to demonstrate that. I think they should really beat the hell out of each other, and I think Sakura should win. I think her countering the mind transfer jutsu should be what decides the fight, and like I said, I think it should be a big deal. I know the onlookers already react to it, and Asuma says Ino probably couldn't hold on because she didn't have enough chakra, but my version is more interesting. I think it should be for real looked into by the Yamanaka clan afterwards. When they're having this fight, the line,
How can you have 2 spirits in you?
never coming back up, Sakura's answer to just what are you being,
Someone who's just as strong as she is beautiful.
Ino has the terrifying realization that her former best friend has 2 souls, and Sakura's response is a 2010s girl boss coffee mug quote. Having 2 souls for no discernible reason is kind of a complicated story path to pursue, so I understand why they didn't, but also why did we have it at all then? There's no reason the other 2 members of Team 7 advance to the finals and get training arcs, and she doesn't, from a writing perspective. She could even have a crisis about not being prepared and feeling like luck got her through the second exam. They know the matchups for the final fight ahead of time, so if she's set to fight Shino or Kankuro or someone stronger than her, then it could be interesting what strategy she chooses, knowing she can't close the gap in strength in just a month. It would even be kind of funny if Naruto and Sasuke were all motivated and excited and Sakura's just like, holy shit, am I gonna die? Sasuke gets Chidori, Naruto gets Rasengan. Sakura should get a signature jutsu or technique during this month as well. What is the point of making your main characters a 3-man squad and then just ignoring only one of them. This is the same problem in the Land of Waves arc and in the Sasuke retrieval arc, where everyone else has something going on but her. At this point in the story, it's been made pretty clear that Sakura is in desperate need of an offensive because she has none other than kunai. So I think after winning the fight against Ino in the prelims, she should go on to train with Inoichi. All the other senseis are busy with their own students who advance, since every squad had at least one member advance to the final round. Ino doesn't advance, so Uncle Inoichi can help Sakura out for the month. Plus, training with Inoichi gives Sakura a chance to learn a bit more about genjutsu and mind transfer jutsu, and gives the Yamanaka clan a chance to investigate how she broke Ino's jutsu during the prelims. This could be when she picks up her ability to not just resist genjutsu but take control of others and works on her hand-to-hand combat as well. Naruto spends a lot of time thematically on the talent versus hard work debate, and it's a shame Sakura isn't utilized more within that framework, I think. Technically speaking, she's even more of an underdog than Naruto is. He's got a super demon and Uzumaki clan lineage, and he's the 4th Hokage's kid. Sakura is low-key just some guy. I have sort of a hot take here, which is that I think despite appearances, Naruto is the genius and Sasuke is the hard worker. And I wrote here in my script editor's note, since writing this, I have decided that it's not a hot take at all. It is blatantly what is communicated to us in the story. Very good. Okay. Sasuke has the Sharingan, yes, but most of his skills in part 1 are clearly the result of relentless training and not pure natural power. He has a very technique-based style compared to Naruto's hit it till it breaks approach. Besides, the story makes it clear that between Sasuke and Itachi was the genius. The flashbacks show us Sasuke skipping break periods at school to train more because of the pressure to live up to Itachi's reputation, which he already falls short of in terms of skill relative to age. It happens again with the fireball jutsu, with his father. The literal cosmic power crawl towards the end of the show kind of blasts a lot of this theming into oblivion, which I dislike, but especially in part 1 and the first half of Shippuden, I stand by this take. Sasuke figures things out fast because he's clever and applies himself, not because it comes naturally. In the Land of Waves arc, it takes him just as long as Naruto to figure out how to walk up the tree. I know Naruto gets a little help from Sakura in that scene, but my point is that for Sasuke, it didn't come naturally. Once he figured out the mechanics of it, he could do it, but it took many failed attempts. Naruto is sort of the same in that regard, except he also frequently figures out how to use a lot of techniques for the first time mid-fight, and sorted out multiple steps of the Rasengan, a very difficult jutsu, more or less by himself at age 12. Sasuke, on the other hand, tends to only display techniques in combat that he has practiced extensively in training or studied to some degree. Naruto's just winging it. Jiraiya frequently has inner monologue, being surprised at some insane thing Naruto can do without even meaning to.
This kid is something else.
To circle back around to Sakura, she exists in sort of a double middle ground where she has less chakra and no clan and no nine tails and no Sharingan, has more raw talent than either of the boys, if you walk with me here. Sakura has naturally flawless chakra control, insane physical strength and durability, high intellect, and specifically a proficiency in math and science, to the point where she's calculating exact angles for like a trap in the Land of Snow movie. A lot of this is perhaps accidental by way of not giving her much of development, that all of the things Sakura does well at she does effortlessly and without prior training pre-Tsunade. She needs little to no guidance to climb the tree or fend off genjutsu. She was fully capable of answering every question on the Chunin exams test without cheating, without studying. And while I acknowledge the unintentional nature of some of these instances, I think it's a fascinating angle to explore for her character. She does not have the circumstantial and genetic advantages that either of her two teammates has, but also certain things come far more naturally to her than to them. Remember, just like Naruto, Sasuke couldn't answer a single question on the written exam either. I think Sakura slots into this thematic framework perfectly. Imagine for a moment that after the tree climbing scene, Kakashi immediately started her on water walking or something more complicated, and she mastered it instantly too, and then moves on to even more complicated techniques, and Naruto and Sasuke are left having a minor crisis over the fact that they can't even get halfway up the first tree. Imagine a world where her rivalry with Ino is underpinned by Sakura's blistering aptitude for strategy and chakra control, despite lacking a clan and not working all that hard for them, pitted against Ino's pride as a clan heir. Especially because Naruto's world is essentially nepotism the society, Sakura just hangs around with nothing to do in the month leading up to the Chunin exam finals, and she's just hanging around during the fight with Gaara and playing hostage, and she's just hanging around doing nothing while Sasuke fights Itachi and Naruto and Jiraiya search for Tsunade, and she's just chilling at home during the Sasuke retrieval arc. Are we sensing a pattern here? I have one addendum to stick on the end here that I didn't really know where to put anywhere else, so we're sticking it here when it comes to fights and agency. But one frustrating thing about the central / main female cast as a whole is just how many of them have arcs or mini arcs, more accurately, in both the mainline and filler episodes about not being as strong as their male teammates and the vague frustration they feel about it while inevitably remaining behind them. Sakura, yes, but Tenten, Hinata, and even Ino have shades of it. Tsunade, Konan, and Tamari are the only 3 female characters I can think of who exist in 3-man squads in the canon, and we see them in that environment, who don't have this characterization. It may be worth mentioning that all 3 of these characters also had at least semi-antagonist status at one point in the story or upon introduction. Tsunade's not a villain, but she is an antagonist in the Tsunade retrieval arc at first. Tamari and Konan were part of the Sand Invasion and Akatsuki invasions of the Leaf Village respectively, and then later switched sides. The female characters written as supporting cast on the protagonist side from the beginning almost all have the explicit characterization of being weaker than their male teammates. The motivation is always to keep up with them and never to surpass or to compete, which is silly because there is no barrier or divide in physical or technical abilities because everyone has chakra. Tsunade is canonically stronger than the Raikage because it's a matter of chakra. What matters is how much chakra you have and how well you can use it. Even Lee and Guy use chakra despite the fact that they don't use ninjutsu. I think this characterization is silly, and like, if you have it for one of them, it's fine. Right? If you have one character that's like their arc is about how they're much further behind their teammates and they feel insecure about it and they really want to catch up and they happen to be female, that's fine. When it's like basically every single member of your female supporting cast has the exact same arc, and the only one that's even slightly different is Hinata's because hers is framed against her complicated family expectations, which is slightly better in theory. In practice, her arc is actually completely about Naruto, which is a whole other problem. But when it's every single member of your female supporting cast that has the same arc, that's a pattern, and it's a weird pattern, and I don't like it. You're better off just giving them unique struggles from each other. Part 9, Shippuden fights / arcs. We'll go arc by arc once again, skipping most filler, but we'll still do a little bit. But we are going to move a little faster now because our focus will gradually shift from rewriting Sakura to giving her something to do at all, because she doesn't really have a role in the plot after a certain point. I'm telling you now, at least half of our problem will be solved simply by not having her be unconscious or crying, but instead doing a task of some kind. Temperature check on our Sakura right now versus the canon one. Straviv Sakura is an orphan via Ninetales incident that has been failed by the system, joining the Ninja Academy because it's the only way for a 12-year-old to support themselves in this military society, and she's still an academic overperformer, still rivals with Ino, but over personal competition instead of Sasuke. She has a more mutual dynamic with her team. She's closer with Kakashi, has a looser moral compass, and her drive to become stronger comes from a mix of fear, self-preservation, spite, a growing begrudging love for her comrades, and respect for Tsunade. She has a lot of raw talent but has avoided fully applying herself until around the end of the Land of Waves arc. She was coasting before, but now she's locked in. She doesn't have lofty ambitions but wants to protect her people, make Tsunade proud, and make a living. First up is the Kazekage rescue arc. Naruto returns to the village after a 2-year time skip, and Gaara, a sand ninja who Naruto taught no jutsu'd into being a good guy back at the end of the Chunin exams and is now the Kazekage / president of the Sand Village, is kidnapped by the ninja mafia, aka the Akatsuki, because he has the one-tailed beast sealed inside of him, which is similar to the 9 tails that Naruto has, and Naruto and crew set out to save him as well as help out the Sand Village. It is this arc where we get introduced to Lady Chiho, the best old person in Naruto. As far as Sakura goes, this arc is really solid. She gets to step up and heal Kankuro by foregoing an antidote at first and just physically extracting the poison in his system, bit by bit, which is metal as hell. I'm a huge fan of the medic being a no-nonsense badass. I love a cool-ass doctor. I wish Sakura had gotten a more developed relationship with Kankuro post saving him from his poisoning, but I do enjoy her relationship with Lady Chiyo, as Lady Chiyo had a... I'm calling her Lady Chiyo. I'm showing her so much respect. I do enjoy her relationship with Chiyo, as Chiyo has a sort of old rivalry with Tsunade, and Sakura is Tsunade's protege, and so on, and I think that's cute. I like that. That's world building. Honestly, minimal notes for this arc. It's good. It's solid stuff. Sakura is strategically used and matters to the plot. She's sort of steely and confident in a way that she kind of isn't later. She gets plot important information from Sasori when she fights him and affects the story later. She demonstrates a level of determination she didn't have before. If the rest of the show wrote her like this, we probably wouldn't even be here in this video right now. This wouldn't even be happening. Rewatching this arc, I was struck by how much more lore and backstory Chiyo has than Sakura does. She genuinely has no backstory even compared to side characters from a different village. Sakura and Chiyo versus Sasori is, in general, one of the best fights in the show, period. It's just really cool. You don't need me to tell you that. You can see for yourself. And I'm sad she never gets to do anything like this again. But this fight is really cool. The way that everybody's powers get used in different ways, and the way Chiyo and Sakura work together and whatnot. It's a good fight. It's just a really solid, good arc where Sakura gets to be the star for once. It does piss me off a bit that Naruto is given the credit for changing Chiyo's heart and inspiring her to sacrifice herself to save Gaara at the end of the arc, when it was definitely her battle side by side with Sakura that made her change. She barely spoke to Naruto, but Chiyo and Sakura took turns saving each other for like 10 episodes. What the hell, guys? Sakura's the one walking at Chiyo's side at the funeral procession. Sakura stays longest at her grave, and then they're like, wow, Naruto, he sure does know how to change people and touch their hearts. I mean, he helped a little, I guess, to be fair, but it was mostly Sakura. Tenchi Bridge / reunion arc. This arc is when Sai and Yamato join Team Kakashi and go on an intel gathering mission based on information Sakura got from Sasori during their fight in the previous arc. It leads them to Orochimaru's hideout and eventually an encounter with Sasuke. Sai is an addition to Team 7 to take Sasuke's place, which we mentioned before.
Sasuke's a bazillion times better than him! Man.
And Yamato is on the team as captain during this mission because Kakashi is in the hospital after the events of the previous arc. I do enjoy the initial dynamic between Sakura, Naruto, and Sai, being that Sai is just kind of their least favorite co-worker. Sai is kind of not great at first, but he's fine later. I love Yamato, but otherwise this arc is extremely boring. Sai is just not fun to watch in a good way or a bad way. He's just sort of nothing, especially at first, and I suspect his general unpopularity is why he vanishes as time goes on. I think he's honestly kind of cute later, but certainly not at first, because there's about 5 episodes straight of nothing but arguing with Sai. The pacing issues are especially brutal here. In episode 39, it takes almost 10 minutes for Yamato to walk from the forest to the bridge, and legit nothing else happens during that time. No cutaways or B-plots, just the camera doing some soulful meandering. This arc is just fight with new teammate, go to bridge for info, turns into a fight, and Naruto has trouble staying in control of the fox. Sai is suspicious, we see Sasuke for a little. This will take several hours. We get a couple of scraps of lore, and that's it. This arc could have been 5 or 6 episodes instead of 22, and I'm dead serious. Episode 1, we meet Sai and Yamato, then switch back and forth between the new squad arguing while traveling and the mission, and then back to Tsunade with a bit of political drama at home. Episode 2 starts with the bridge confrontation, where we get some Yamato lore, Sai letting Sakura fall off the bridge and acting suspicious, Naruto freaks out, then fights with Orochimaru. Episode 3 has Sai running off with Orochimaru, and the rest of the team discusses the political drama and the Nine-Tails stuff, and then chases Sai to the hideout, and then we get some of those Sasuke scenes in the hideout. Episode 4 is the team infiltrating the hideout and confronting Sai and then Kabuto, who is Orochimaru's evil little assistant. Episode 5 is Sasuke time. Episode 6 is Resolution. I say 5 or 6, but you could do a couple more if you wanted to give extra time to let scenes breathe and make it 7 or 8. But my point is that 20 plus episodes for this amount of plot is redonk. This arc contains one of the only times I can support Sakura standing still and crying, because we see her thinking about 12-year-old Naruto and then looking at the Four Tails beast mode in front of her, which she has never seen before, and is clearly afraid of losing him to it. She doesn't want to hurt him, so she opts for talking him down but gets hit. I think she should still be standing, however, and Kabuto is talking to her, not Yamato, while he heals her. He's literally saying he's healing her in hopes that they'll take down more Akatsuki members later, and Sakura is the only person in the scene, and in the entire show at this point, who has actually taken down an Akatsuki member, so he should be addressing her, I think. This happens for the whole arc, actually. They keep talking about Sasori's death, and the fact that Sakura was responsible for that is never brought up. I think she should also be a little bit more calm, trained soldier and surgeon that she is. Yamato says he can't teach Sakura to restrain Naruto, and they call it a day. But couldn't we work something out for her to have via scrolls and sealing and Tsunade and Yamato's help to contain him? She's Naruto's twink handler. She needs this. I forgot I wrote that. They actually have kind of romantic tension in this scene. Actually, all of the first half of Shippuden, Sakura and Naruto have kind of romantic subtext to some of their scenes. Anyway, this arc is another example and missed opportunity of how Sakura could have been a more plot-important character. The political drama in the Leaf centered around Danzo and Tsunade means Sakura would likely be targeted or drawn into disputes as the hand-picked member of Tsunade's inner circle that she is. Danzo conspiring against her mentor is also another reason for Sakura to try and sick Sasuke on him earlier on in the story. The funniest part of this arc to me is the very first thing Sasuke does upon meeting Sai is trap him in a torture genjutsu. Just a total girl fuck you moment. Kabuto's dialogue is a close second.
Well, I guess Sasuke's awake.
Third is the way that Naruto has like half a dozen fond memories of Sasuke to flash back to while they're looking for him, and Sakura just has the one. Fourth is Orochimaru finding Sai and Naruto just like chilling on the floor of the hallway just purely on accident in the hideout. Fifth is that Sasuke's picture in the hit list bingo book is from when he was 12 because that's all they had. And sixth is just this shot of Sakura standing around while Yamato gets stabbed. It's a really funny arc, okay? To end off, I think Sakura should be a lot more angry at Sasuke, and it should stem partially from embarrassment at letting this emo bastard reject her so harshly and then falling for him in the first place. But he's still important to her, and she's really embarrassed about that. When they're fighting in the crater, let her swing on him a couple times. Neither of them should go for the kill shot yet, but let's get a little action in there. This arc, man. Top 10 anime fights, Kabuto versus the Wasps. There's like 30 seconds of panning back and forth with no dialogue. There's like 8 minutes of flashback for 2 new lines of dialogue. I love talking about Naruto, but watching it is sometimes an exercise in willpower. Next up is the Akatsuki Suppression arc. So the Akatsuki are creeping into the territory of our heroes, so squads are being dispatched to shut them out. The first squad to encounter them has Asuma, the leader of Team 10 of the Konoha 12, and he dies in the fight, and then his team is set out on a retribution mission with the backup of Team Kakashi. The first half of this arc is just Naruto training while the action happens, and then learning about chakra form and nature and elements and jutsu, and then the second half is the actual fight. I don't really know where else to put this, but at this point in the story, it kind of becomes really obvious to me that Sakura needed a tense, soulful opening or ending sequence with Sasuke, because Sasuke and Naruto have like a million with each other. The ending credit for this arc is especially charged and intimate. This is great. Imagine if Sakura was here. These earlier arcs of Shippuden kind of kill me a little bit, because if I didn't know for a fact that Sakura ends up with Sasuke by the end of the show, I would have thought for sure they were setting her up to be with Naruto. So much of the story seems like it's pushing them together, especially the way Sai's perspective is used to frame their relationship sometimes during this part of the story. Naruto is still into her and asking her out, post-time skip, and generally speaking, if something like that continues post-large time skip, it reads as genuine and potentially endgame. If they weren't endgame, why did you keep his crush on him and make it like more intense and emotionally charged post 2-year time skip where they didn't see each other at all? If it's just a childish crush and they're not really gonna end up together, why did we do that? Sakura doesn't do anything at all this arc. Like, actually jack shit, like literally nothing. So we're gonna have to do something about that. The change in chakra nature training Naruto does at the beginning of this arc seems very heavy on delicate and deliberate chakra control from the way it's described, so I think Sakura should just be doing his training with him because she's a chakra control prodigy and also another member of Team 7, and Kakashi and Yamato were there, and it's like, why is she not there? Like, what? But I think she should be there because she's a total chakra control prodigy, as previously established. If anyone is predisposed to learn this, it's her. Between her affinity for chakra control and Naruto's clones, they could even be learning at relatively similar rates, because Naruto is progressing by having like a gajillion clones of himself all practice at the same time and then dispelling the clones so all the memories go back into his head so he can train like 30 times as fast as the average man. And so if he's doing that to compensate for his poor chakra control and slightly below average intelligence, Sakura's really strong aptitude for chakra control could then put them on relatively similar playing fields. With her control, she could even master multiple chakra nature changes instead of just one and have access to more than one elemental release. As far as I can find, Sakura's chakra nature is never directly stated anywhere in the show. Naruto is wind, Sasuke is fire, because Kakashi said he had to learn how to do a change in chakra nature in order to perform Chidori. Sakura is a mystery. Do not bring up the data books to me. I watched RWBY. I'm overdoing homework to figure out lore and plot points that should be in the show by themselves. I'm not listening. Also, the data book says she has like 3 affinities because I actually have seen it. But don't bring up the data book to me because I don't want to hear about the data book, because if it should be in the show. It should be in the show. Because the elements work in this like rock, paper, scissors type situation where one is weak to, or I guess Pokemon is a better metaphor, but like one element is strong against one in particular and weak against another in particular, and it goes in a circle. And there's like a whole thing about wind being the thing that makes fire more powerful, but is also the counter for lightning. And Naruto is wind, and Sasuke is fire, who can do a lightning change in nature. It's like a whole thematic thing, and we never get to find out what Sakura's actual elemental affinity is in the show proper. We're never told. Her affinity can be earth, even if that's basic, and the change in chakra nature that she achieves is water, and she learns how to do some freaky medical bloodbending ninjutsu. Sort of how like Tsunade has a lightning type affinity and can scramble people's electrical signals and mess up their coordination. Sakura could have something similar, except she could, like, move around people's brain juice with her chakra or whatever. Or, like, neurosurgeon jutsu. Or something like that. Sakura learns how to punch and heal and the basic academy jutsu, and then doesn't learn a single jutsu for the rest of the show. She doesn't do anything but bring inedible food to Naruto during this arc. We don't even get to see if she's working at the hospital or training with Tsunade or anything, just wandering around with a basket. Just girly things. Me when I wander aimlessly with a basket. Someone with perfect chakra control should also be very good at inventing jutsu, since we've established it's about manipulating chakra in certain ways and in certain orders. Change in chakra nature and change in chakra form are both exercises in control. She should be inventing jutsu from a combination of chakra form and nature hitherto unforeseen. Or at least experimenting with it. So I think Tsunade and Sakura during this arc should do some kind of research on wood style and Hashirama cells together. You could then integrate the research into wood style into her medical ninjutsu to make her regeneration more efficient. Later on, Madara, a big bad villain that we'll get to, vaguely implies that Tsunade having Hashirama's blood in her veins is important or relevant to her medical ninjutsu. So what say we to a mad scientist moment from Tsunade and Sakura? Tsunade might feel the need to do it given Yamato's existence as a response to Orochimaru's experimentation. I like morally gray medical malpractice Tsunade. It doesn't even have to work, right? Like, they don't really have to achieve any kind of actual wood style. Maybe just Sakura figures out a way to make her regeneration more efficient and cost her less. But this experimentation with Tsunade and Sakura can serve as setup for the end of the show when Tsunade engineers a prosthetic arm from Hashirama cells. So we could just have a little bit of her in the lab earlier on to show that this is maybe a thing that's possible, and then Sakura can gain a little bit in the regen department from this. I think Sakura should also have an episode or two around here during the training part of this arc dedicated to her forming a summoning contract with Katsuyu, the beautiful massive slug that Tsunade uses as summoning jutsu to help her out with various things. Sakura can just summon Katsuyu later on her own, and we aren't told when she picked that up, so I'd put that here alongside the change in chakra nature training. Sakura having an actual rapport and relationship with Katsuyu the way Naruto has one with several of the toads that he uses as summons, it would be good. Let's do that. Funniest part of this arc is there's this moonlight shooting star monologue from Yamato about Sakura caring for Naruto as they look up at the same star, and then Naruto clutches every little note Sakura has written for him over the course of this arc and looks up at the sky and says, Sasuke.
Sasuke.
Oh my god. He just intermittently says Sasuke while training as well with no context.
Sasuke.
Second funniest is Asuma fat-shaming Choji on his own deathbed.
And another thing, you might consider losing a few pounds.
I don't know if it's possible, but I'll try to.
Fourth is Asuma taking the world's biggest drag of this cigarette. I'm in the crib smoking cigarettes faster than previously imagined. Obviously, the meat of this arc is Asuma and Shikamaru and Team 10 having their big emotional arc about losing their teacher. So I think it's fine that Sakura ultimately doesn't do that much. Sakura doesn't have to actually take down any enemies. She doesn't actually have to play an important role, but if she just shows up as reinforcements and swings on a couple people and lands one or two hits, that's all I'm really asking for. Episode 82 is another example of Naruto randomly just being extremely artfully shot for only like one episode. Naruto's quality has such extreme range. I wish Team 8 had an episode like this, Hinata, Kiba, and Shino. They really get crumbs compared to the rest of the cast. This whole arc is maybe the most narratively cohesive in the whole show with Shikamaru's character arc and the shogi metaphors. At the end of this arc, Sakura should become a Jonin along with a couple of others from the Konoha 12, because a lot of the Konoha 12 became Chunin during the time skip, including Sakura. So I think Shikamaru, Shino, and Sakura should form a team and become Jonin at the end of this arc. It's kind of an awkward place to put this, but with Pain's invasion and the war starting not long after this, two extremely large-scale events with a lot of destruction, this is one of the last chances where the village infrastructure would still be mostly functioning. Having these three advance would mean that, including Neji, who is already a Jonin, every team from the Konoha 12 would have one Jonin. This is set up for Sakura to have more political authority later on down the line. Tsunade should sort of force her to do it because our version of Sakura wouldn't quite be at the point where she'd have the initiative to pursue that so soon after making Chunin, but would be willing once pushed. This is also part of Tsunade's secret agenda to eventually put Sakura in charge of the hospital so she can retire. Tsunade would also want Shikamaru and Shino as Jonin so they could rank higher as a strategist and a tracker respectively, because she's interested in filling the ranks with people she trusts after tensions have been escalating with Danzo in the previous arc. Plus, it could be a moment for Shikamaru because Team Asuma doesn't have a Jonin anymore period with their sensei dead, and Choji and Ino would rather have Shikamaru be the leader than someone new, so poor Shikamaru does the Jonin exams grief edition. Naruto can't do it because he missed the Chunin exams and his ass is still a genin. Itachi Pursuit arc. So Team Kakashi and Team 8 are dispatched to hunt down and capture Itachi. This fails and Sasuke and Itachi have their duel, resulting in Itachi's death. Jiraiya is on his own journey with investigating the leaders of the Akatsuki and meets his end. They more or less take a lot of L's in this arc. Every single time Sasuke shows up on screen, ominous country song starts playing. IDGAF about Team Taka though, so the fact that there's episodes on end of this bullshit is just painful for me. Cutting between whatever this is and the evil Zoom call means that the first half of this arc is my least favorite stretch so far in Shippuden.
Cornering the entire war market.
Until the team from Konoha dispatches and the fighting starts.
How did he disarm the C4 bombs?
The big change I'd make in this arc is that Sakura gets a one-on-one scene with Sasuke when they're in town searching for him, because I'm fairly certain they don't see each other again until after he kills Itachi, so if she's going to try and warn him about Danzo being involved in the massacre, she has to do it in this arc. They search for Sasuke, none of them actually find him, but I would change that somewhere around episode 122, where they're in the village where Team Taka is also at looking for him, we'd have this encounter. Ideally, I'd do it at a more natural time, but they are nowhere near each other for the majority of the story until the war arc, so this is kind of it. So before Sasuke gets into a fight with Deidara, Sakura senses Sasuke's chakra and bolts and leaves her team behind to go confront him. Sakura tries to warn him, and it goes very poorly, to say the least. He attacks her and then flees into the forest where he encounters Deidara, and events proceed as normal because Sakura is shaken from the ordeal and doesn't immediately report in to her teammates. Sasuke should say some harsh things in this encounter, as Sakura is challenging the entire premise of his life's purpose. He calls her a liar and throws in a line about how she's just saying things to confuse him and doesn't know what it's like to have a goal or a purpose other than to survive like a rat. Then he jumps her and they fight before he runs away. He can get some good hits in on her, maybe a diversion sucker punch combo. She collapses some infrastructure. The works. It is important that Sasuke does not draw his sword or use Chidori. And after this fight, everything proceeds as normal. He still fights Deidara, he still fights Itachi, he still runs off with the Akatsuki. Before going into the next arc, somewhere at the end of this one, I would like to put a full episode dedicated to Sakura's unhealthy coping mechanisms. After the failed attempt to talk to Sasuke, the newfound pressure of being a Jonin, and the impending threat of the Akatsuki, and Jiraiya's death, she gets restless and drinks too much, gets in a bar fight, throws up in an alley, whatever. You know, girl stuff. Perhaps a very emotional drunk walk home after going to the bar to get her mind off things, but ends up getting hit on and starts thinking about Sasuke, which ends at her vomiting in a bush. This is set up for her eventually arriving at the conclusion that she needs to kill Sasuke and is willing to do it. She's already contemplating the possibility she might have to kill him pre-5 Kage Summit attack, so when she arrives at that point, it feels less like she switches up out of nowhere. Also, with Jiraiya's recent death, she doesn't want to burden Naruto and deals with everything on her own. So while he's having his grief moment with Iruka and everyone, and like being sad in the park, she's doing all this, but doesn't ever talk to him about it. Tsunade notices her struggling, however, and intervenes. It should also be around here that it's revealed that there is a slug equivalent to the Toad Sage mode, and Tsunade, who is thinking about her legacy as the last surviving Sannin, starts to teach it to Sakura. They can argue while training, because Tsunade's having a rough go of it too, and then they go to the bar together and they both end up throwing up in an alley.
Oh, I'm drinking tonight! Okay.
The other characters, and Sasuke especially, go through absolute hell this arc, and Sakura comparatively doesn't get to take hits and get back up and thug it out the way that Naruto or Sasuke or Kakashi do. She has a little bit of this in her Sasori fight, and then it's just nothing for 400 episodes. Let my girl take some damage. Naruto copes with endless optimism, Sasuke with obsession, Kakashi with detachment. We never get to see how Sakura handles things other than crying, which isn't unique or interesting. Everyone cries. This is a writing issue that plagues more than just Naruto, frankly, wherein female characters are treated as if they handle emotions magically or simply by crying or just feeling it without ever seeking outlets or coping mechanisms because of the incorrect assumption that women are magical, empathetic creatures that just feel things and don't have to put it down or let it out anywhere. Women lash out and cope poorly and get angry and are haunted by things for the rest of their lives. If girls could be alcoholics, I'd be fucked. Sakura gets sad about things sometimes, but it's never treated with any significant weight the way Naruto's or Shikamaru's grief is. Sakura's sadness is very palatable and never uncomfortable or gut-wrenching to watch the way Naruto's is. There's a whole lot of staring beautifully out of a pane of glass and crying going on, and not a whole lot of, like, human emotion. Relationship with staring beautifully out the window has ended. Vomiting at inopportune moments is my new best friend. The funniest part of this arc is Jiraiya's bizarrely sincere bosom speech.
How you hold all the memories of your lost friends and loved ones inside that ample bosom of yours.
Second is that Pain's plan is to give everyone a nuke.
The ultimate forbidden jutsu weapons.
But how could create...
Fourth is the fact that Sasuke went after the Eight Tails thinking, I've fought a Jinchuriki before, how hard can it be? And then Killer Bee promptly wiped the floor with his whole team. The Pain arc. So the Akatsuki invade Konoha searching for Naruto, and this arc is famous for its terminal case of Sakura's do-nothing-itis. So many side characters get to step up and do more than she does in this arc. Konohamaru's sensei, who is an ultra-mega side character, gets to have a fight. Kakashi and Naruto get to have big moments. Even Choji has some stuff going on. So once the invasion starts, I don't really like that Sakura is immediately sent to the hospital after one-shotting the massive centipede summon. She's far more valuable as a field medic in this situation anyway, but even then I don't like her being limited to that. She can still go to the hospital and take charge until Shizune or someone else shows up and then rejoins the battle, but Sakura having a character moment about stepping up to the plate and having authority in a medical setting does not have to come at the expense of her participation in the wider story. Then, while defending from the invasion, Sakura should unlock her Seal of 100. Her unlocking it as late as she does in the original story makes it very much not useful to the plot. She should have the power that lets her be on the front line of any battle before the war starts, I think. So she unlocks her Seal of 100, and now she's on the front line taking down the summons like the massive centipede because she can one-hit kill them when it took Shikamaru 2 jutsus and 3 explosive tags, so she's way more efficient at taking them down anyway. And she can still do some healing here and there, but I want her to be really in the thick of it. She's well suited to taking on horde-style enemies and extremely large enemies. So she's more effective on the front line in this battle, and she has the Seal of 100 than she is allowed to be on the front line of this battle. Also, when Tsunade summons Katsuyu to heal all of the villagers, I think we should get the reveal of Slug Sage mode, which is what Tsunade uses to heal everyone. And I brought this up in my last Naruto video, but instead of Hinata fighting Pain, I think Sakura should. I'm hesitant to take this away from Hinata since it's legit like her only scene in all of Shippuden low-key, but this is a Sakura video and how Hinata was handled is its own topic for another day. I will say all the flashbacks to her family and schoolyard bullying feel really random and not super related to the whole invasion thing. If we wanted to establish emotional connection with Naruto, this was not the spot to put it. It is very last minute considering just how many people in the story already have a very firmly established connection to Naruto, but we're establishing the connection emotionally to the person who's sacrificing herself for him literally in the scene where it happens. Great. The framework for this battle is that Sakura absolutely knows she's going to lose and is only buying Naruto time to get free to enter Sage mode. She's making this play for the overall survival of the village at the expense of herself, marking a major shift from her starting point of doing the bare minimum to skate by. It's a full circle moment for her character arc, and I think it would be more visceral for Naruto to watch someone previously so motivated by self-preservation and whose family died in the Nine-Tails attack give it all for him. It's also slightly more rational because she has the Seal of 100 now and could reasonably or potentially survive an encounter with Pain and getting her ass completely beat. She's not fighting to win, she knows she'll probably lose and maybe die, but is fighting to take him with her. Think Korra season 3 finale. She's not smiling or making inspirational speeches, she just has this look on her face like, I can't believe I'm doing this. Sakura, as we have built her so far, would also fare much better than Hinata did. As much as Sakura loses and knows that she will, it's still a real fight. I need you to imagine that Naruto is looking at Sakura here, and not Hinata, right? And we have a little drama because he doesn't know that she awakened her seal yet, so he doesn't understand that maybe she could live through this. It's just like, he doesn't know. So Naruto losing it crazy style with the Nine-Tails chakra hits a lot harder when it's over Sakura, a character that's spent hundreds of episodes with Naruto, and you could reasonably argue is his closest friend, over a character that he's had a handful of passing dialogue with and maybe one real conversation. He loses it all the way to Nine-Tails City, and he jumped there from 4. This is the most out of control Naruto has ever been. He almost undoes the seal completely, and his dad has to pull up to the spirit world or whatever to, like, seal him back in. And I think that should have been triggered by a character that he was actually extremely close to. Naruto senses Kakashi's chakra extinguish, basically, and knows that he has, like, died, sort of, and he doesn't freak out this bad. But seeing it happen to Hinata triggering all of this is like, I don't think it's so great, really. You could make the argument it's everything like together, right? Like he knows XYZ people are dead and then like this is just the final straw. But it also ends up with the narrative fact that he didn't react this strongly to realizing Kakashi was like literally dead. But Hinata, who he's talked to like 2 times in the last 3 years, is like enough for him to just completely go berserk. The main antagonist for this arc is Pain / Nagato and his 3-man squad with Yahiko, whose corpse he possesses. So Yahiko's here too, and then his other teammate Conan is also a member of the Akatsuki. She's here too, and we get flashbacks of them as a 3-man squad. And the thing that annoys me about these flashbacks is how little dialogue Conan has. Like, I know the point is to see Yahiko since he's dead present day, but she doesn't get to say much of anything even compared to Nagato. Every trio in this show suffers from the iron mold of 1. Spirited boy, 2. Mopey boy, and 3. Girl. Once you know, you can't unsee it. I think it's very interesting how different Conan is from her childhood. She's stoic and determined and nothing like the friendly, expressive kid that she once was. Nagato's really different too, but we get to hear all about that, but basically nothing for Conan. Just hostage shenanigans and Yahiko being stupid and taking the warlord who just betrayed them at his word and then throwing himself on a knife for no good reason instead of trying literally anything else. And then Nagato immediately wins the fight that I guess he was trying to avoid. Conan doesn't do anything the whole flashback other than offer Nagato food at the very beginning, and it's just sort of a shame because she might be the coolest Akatsuki member after Itachi. She gets to say and do a lot more once Nagato is dead, but I bring this up because Conan is treated very similarly to Sakura in this arc in the flashbacks. They're both distraught observers to everything going on when they both possess the physical power to do something about the situation. Shizune and Kakashi, two people very important to Sakura, literally die and come back to life while she's sitting around on the battlefield, and she literally has no idea. She misses all of it. So if she's down for the count after fighting pain, we have an actual reason for her not to be freaking out about that or involved in other things towards the end of the invasion. Also, no punching Naruto in the head after he finally wins the fight. That was really weird. But the cut to Hinata right after the hug kills me every fucking time. Like, sure, whatever. Put it in there. The funniest part of this arc is this buttery ass pencil. Second is this PowerPoint transition. The third is the infamous pain bonk over the head. Next up is the past arc, which is a filler arc made up of flashbacks to new scenes or perspectives of part 1 and some village rebuilding post-invasion stuff. So I'm just going to touch on a few random thoughts about this arc in general because it is 20 episodes long after all. This arc is very fun and gives more time to the side characters, which is appreciated even if nothing substantial really happens in this arc. The one major thing I would put in the beginning of this arc is Sakura and Naruto having a heart-to-heart conversation about Sakura's fight with Pain, with Naruto being like, "Why did you do that? You scared me. That was really upsetting." And then Sakura explaining that she unlocked her seal and had a chance of survival. And then Naruto can talk about how terrified he was fresh off Jiraiya's death and Kakashi's temporary death and how he was going to lose her too. And how the only reason he was able to hold back from killing Pain was because he could still sense her chakra or something, and then they hug it out. Some of my favorite episodes from this arc are episode 180, because getting Sasuke really didn't get enough time to shine the first time around, so I'm happy we have this.
Something happened here.
Something just happened.
Naruto and Sakura do have some nice interactions that help them feel closer during this arc, but even in flashback filler, she still doesn't get to do anything except fist fight an anthropomorphic cat.
Stay out of this, loser!
Don't call me a loser!
My favorite episode in this arc is probably the one about vaccinating Naruto. Episode 183. This is how hard it was to vaccinate Naruto. We had to call in the CIA. We had to use a blow dart, but we got him. Seize him.
Seize him!
Target captured!
1010 also tends to get a lot of love in the filler arcs. I think they really liked her because she seems to always be around, and I do enjoy that. We get to have my underrated goat. Oh, and Naruto and Sasuke kiss for the second time. There's also this ending credit sequence of Sakura crying in the shower and drawing Naruto in the steam and condensation on the glass of the door, which is like, what do you mean they're not endgame? What? But this is more of that pretty crying while looking through a pane of glass I mentioned earlier. Anyway, that's it. That's just the greatest hits for this arc. 5 Kage Summit arc. So post-invasion and post-Killer Bee kidnap attempt by Sasuke and the Akatsuki, the 5 great nations hold a summit to discuss how to deal with the Akatsuki. Tsunade is comatose at the time after healing everyone during the invasion, so Danzo, the evil conservative, is acting Hokage for a few episodes and uses this opportunity to make absolutely everything worse. Danzo declares Sasuke a rogue ninja and approves a hit on him, basically, which is actually pretty reasonable considering the fact that he attacked another village on their turf after living with the Leaf's #1 op for years. This plot point is weird because both Naruto and Sakura demonstrate abysmal street smarts or political strategy just by trying to barge in on Danzo and demand he change his mind because they want him to, which I'm not a huge fan of. I think Sakura should side with Kakashi's more restrained approach, knowing from her time under Tsunade that Danzo is someone to be careful with as well as her personal suspicions of him in our version. on. This scene can then function as a character moment for Naruto specifically, where he can learn to start thinking a little more politically. Sakura getting upset at Danzo during this arc and being like, if he really cared about the Leaf Village, why send Tracker Nin after Sasuke? And like, girl, I fear this is the one thing he was right about, even if it was motivated by his own personal gain. Sasuke is kidnapping people, or trying to anyway. It is a reasonable and defensible political decision given that Sasuke's actions going unaddressed pose a threat to the Leaf's political relationship with the other villages. If you want to go against this, you have to do it on the down low, and I get that Naruto's not exactly known for subtlety, but Sakura should figure that waltzing straight into the ninja president's office and demanding things while having zero negotiating power is maybe not the most effective tactic. I know that they don't know that Sasuke was working with the Akatsuki at this point, but they find out right after and are immediately like, he wouldn't. And like, yes, he fucking would, are you kidding? Even with the information you do know, living and training with Orochimaru for years makes him a liability for the Leaf's relationship with the Sand because Orochimaru assassinated their president. And Orochimaru used to be a member of the Akatsuki. Sasuke's propensity to align with terrorists and insurgents is a known quantity at this point, and I get being upset, but what exactly is so unbelievable here? Anyway, then Sakura bursts into tears. Needless to say, we are changing this. Our version of Sakura suspects Danzo's involvement in the shadier parts of the Third's tenure and therefore has an inkling of why Sasuke's moving the way he is. She's also a little less positive on him than Naruto after their confrontation in the Itachi pursuit arc. I think the play here is for Sakura to go, oh yeah, that's super messed up, don't worry, we'll handle it, in an effort to make sure that Leaf Shinobi, sympathetic to Sasuke, are the ones sent after him instead of ninja from another village. She could even potentially approach Danzo and ask to be sent after him herself because she knows his moves, and since he joined the Akatsuki and the Akatsuki are responsible for invading the Leaf and Tsunade's coma, that she's out for revenge. This could be an interesting angle because Naruto can't really move like this, but Sakura could paint her loyalty to Tsunade as greater than her loyalty to Sasuke, and potentially get into Danzo's good graces, or at least on better terms than Naruto and Kakashi. She does all of this while Naruto goes with the Cloud Ninja to get his ass beat. It doesn't even have to work, I just want her to try, basically. And so while she's still attached to Sasuke and believes there's a chance to get through to him, she also knows there's a chance she won't, and therefore approaches the whole situation more pragmatically. She's more receptive to Shikamaru and Sai. This is all in service of making it more believable that she's willing to literally kill him later this same arc. She cries so many times this arc, and crying is fine, but I wish we limited it to 1 or 2 scenes instead of half a dozen. Naruto cries while begging the Raikage to pardon Sasuke, and I think that's a good moment. Sakura cries so much it loses a lot of emotional impact. Every time she cries this arc, it's over Naruto or Sasuke, but not once do we see her seriously cry the same way about Tsunade's coma, which they don't know if she will wake up from or not at this point in the story. I want a little more of Sakura's reaction to Tsunade's coma. We see her be a little bit sad, but what does she think about it? Is she angry, frightened? Does she blame herself for not shouldering more of Tsunade's burden and healing the village? When Tsunade wakes up, they also need a full heart-to-heart, which they also didn't really get. Sasuke then attacks the summit in an effort to kill Danzo because he has just found out from the Akatsuki leader that Itachi was acting on village orders when he killed his whole family in exchange for Sasuke's life being spared, and that it was all Danzo's idea, because the Uchiha were planning a coup. He only learns this after killing Itachi, however, so he's in a horrific headspace about the whole thing, and in our version, Sakura tried to warn him and he didn't listen, which contributes further to his biblical terrorist crash out. Sakura's reasoning at this point when it comes to Sasuke is, I'm gonna give it one more shot, and if he doesn't listen to reason, I'll kill him. And she resolves to take matters into her own hands because she knows Naruto won't ever be willing to give up on Sasuke. We're going to get rid of her bizarre love confession to Naruto that was somehow intended to dissuade him from trying to save Sasuke. Not sure what that was ever going to accomplish. Extremely odd thing to do. In front of everyone, no less. Including Lee. What possessed her to do this? Help me, I'm dying. I would greatly prefer to replace it with Sakura doing some genjutsu wizardry or simply saying that she was giving up on Sasuke, and Naruto should too. And then when Naruto argues, she says something like, don't worry, I'll take care of everything. And Naruto was like, what could that mean? and Kakashi and Sai are like, she's def gonna kill him. Then, because the news of the attack on the Kage Summit and Naruto's panic attack, they're delayed long enough for Sakura to sneak off and get a head start on confronting Sasuke. Can you imagine how intense the revelation that Sakura plans to kill Sasuke would have been for the rest of Team 7 if we did it literally any other way? Like if she had any emotional build up to this point that started more than 2 episodes ago? Plus, if we do it this way where Sakura has a previous confrontation with Sasuke and wants to talk to him about Danzo specifically, her ditching her team for a moment alone with him makes way more sense than I have to do this alone just because that she had before. It's worth mentioning too that at this point in the original story, everyone on Team 7 except Sakura and Sai knew about the Danzo thing, which I don't like, because it just makes Sakura even more out of the loop of the main plot. So we have Sakura know about it as we've established, but I also would have Sai either have some idea or outright know that Danzo had something to do with the massacre due to being in the Foundation and working under him, but has been unable to say anything because of the curse mark on his tongue that prevents him from divulging intel as long as Danzo is alive. This way, everyone on the main team is roughly on the same page in time to contextualize Sasuke's crash out and escalation of violence. And on her way to kill him, Sakura can flash back to her nice moments with Sasuke that we have retroactively created along with her exchange with him right before he killed Itachi instead of whatever the fuck this was. Several minutes of flashback to Sasuke where he not only doesn't speak to her, but doesn't so much as even look at her. Then we get to the part where he does speak to her and he just does not GAF. These flashbacks consist of Sasuke either ignoring her or being rude to her face, because that's all we had. Whoops. Compare this to Naruto's flashback of Sasuke where they're staring into each other's eyes and kissing on the mouth. The scene where Sakura quote-unquote tries to kill Sasuke should then be replaced by a scene where she thinks she can reason with him and kill him if she can't. Post-Danzo murder, she's thinking, surely he's realized that his revenge quest is over now, and she goes by herself to do this, but he's so worn down and his nerves are so frayed and he's just completely losing it. Add in Danzo saying something about the Hokage or Tsunade or the Leaf government, and he freaks out on Sakura because being the Hokage's apprentice makes her part of that whole system. She tries to convince him that Tsunade is different, but Tsunade is Senju and Sasuke is in a bad place with all of that. But then he's conflicted because she'd been trying to warn him that Itachi didn't act alone and he didn't listen because he assumed she was just saying anything to get him to give up on revenge. So now he's partially mad at himself for not taking her seriously. Sasuke is a person who seems extremely hard on himself over small mistakes, so I think the fact that Sakura had in fact been telling the truth and that he ignored it and blindly killed Itachi anyway would send him even further over the edge when he was already cracking. In fact, in our version, I'd like Sasuke's guilt and regret over killing Itachi to be more explicitly the reason for his growing reckless behavior and callous attitude leading up to this point. I think it's implied in the original, but with our addition of Sakura's ignored warning, I think he should verbalize it a little more. His revenge keeps escalating as he looks for someone else to blame for Itachi's death, but it's not satisfying him because he's ignoring the fact that he blames himself. While talking to Danzo, he should say something along the lines of, if it weren't for you, Itachi would still be alive, where the quiet part he's not saying is that technically, in the end, he played just as big a role in Itachi's death as Danzo did. Danzo catches this and retaliates along the lines of, "Nuh-uh, you killed him," which successfully gets Sasuke even more worked up. Sasuke kills him, Karen can still be face down on the pavement, and then Sakura shows up. They have the confrontation as outlined, where Sakura tries to say, "Okay, you got him, come home," but Sasuke's too busy tweaking to listen to reason. The thing that sets Sasuke off enough to attack Sakura is aligning with Tsunade, Senju. In his guilt, he's still looking for someone else to blame, and now that Danzo is dead, it shifts to the Leaf and the Senju, and Sakura is aligned with both. With all of this tension culminating, they end up fighting each other after a heated argument. This is the moment Sakura resigns to having to kill him, and chooses not just Team 7 and her people over Sasuke, but specifically chooses Tsunade over Sasuke. She is symbolically choosing the Senju, which includes Naruto, over the Uchiha. Over the course of this fight, because Sakura is fresh and Sasuke is severely worn down, Sakura gets him on the defensive and is very close to winning when Naruto and Kakashi finally catch up, at which point Sasuke retreats and Obito shows up to take him away. Sasuke is out of chakra and mostly blind. She should be beating his ass. The OG fight frustrates me so bad because Sakura needs to get saved repeatedly because she keeps hesitating, and it's so frustrating. And then she's like, "Oh my god, he tried to kill me." Like, you came here to kill him. What are we doing? Why did you come here to kill him if you didn't think he would be willing to do that? And then Naruto gets to have a big long moment with Sasuke and like monologues about wanting to die together with him, even though this was originally Sakura's thing. And like, I get that the show's called Naruto for a reason, but give my girl something. The funniest part of this arc is Danzo becoming acting Hokage after decades of trying to grab power, only to completely wreck international relations with all of the other 4 villages and getting his shit rocked within 48 hours. Second funniest is the Stormtrooper Blaster SFX. Third is the Looney Tunes hole in the floor Naruto uses to sneak away from Yamato. Fourth Great Shinobi World War. So, the Akatsuki declare war on everybody, the whole world, so everybody, the whole world makes an alliance to fight them. And the Akatsuki are planning to do this kind of world-ending genjutsu thing, and the Akatsuki is realistically down to just like 2 guys at this point, and they're still going strong and declaring war on everybody, so... There's this diabolical scene right at the beginning of this arc where everyone's like doing preparations and getting ready for war, and Sakura's talking to one of the medics about like wartime injury or whatever, and she has this internal monologue, and she says, if both Naruto and Sasuke got seriously wounded, who will I save first? Naruto, I hope you maniac, you made an attempt on Sasuke's life 3 episodes ago. Scrap this. This should not be here. Whoever wrote this scene, 1,000 years, dungeon. But there's more war prep, and a bunch of lore flashbacks, and then a slightly transphobic armadillo subplot, and then we get back to the front lines. This arc has some cool fights strategically. I'm especially fond of the one with Kankuro Sai and some other side characters in episode 262. We even get Sai's like full backstory, like a whole song and dance, so go ahead and add him to the list of characters that get more narrative oxygen than Sakura. Sakura spends most of this arc locked away at the medical camp, not doing a whole lot, so I would change that first and foremost. Because our version has her seal of 100, she could realistically be at the front line of any battle, so I would much prefer her to be playing field medic as opposed to camp doctor. And in addition to more frontline participation, I want a full multi-episode mini-arc dedicated to Sakura doing surgery in the infirmary and on the battlefield. I want Sakura to be spread thin, splitting her time between the medical camp and the front lines because she's their top medic and is needed to save lives in real time on the battlefield, but also needed for the more complex surgeries and operations at camp. I want an exploration of the power dynamics of her being Tsunade's student in relation to the rest of the medical corps, as well as how her being significantly more capable in combat than the other medics leads to her having to make tough decisions. She's the most skilled healer in the corps and the most skilled fighter. How does that impact deployment? If your best medic has to run interference with the enemy and leave the less skilled to do the healing, how do you manage that? Being versatile means being forced to make tough calls. I'd prefer to have primarily Shizune manning the medical camp and let Sakura be on the battlefield half or more of the time, because beyond our version of her having her seal like we said, they also just have very few medics in the field, if any at all, during this arc. Every time someone gets injured, they're like, transport him to the medical corps! You guys need a field doctor. There's this whole filler arc around like episode 303 to 320, where because of the white Zetsu impersonating some of the medical corps staff and some of the soldiers, because it can shapeshift and whatever, and they can't tell them apart, yada yada yada, not that important. Well, it's actually very important, but not important to this video. But they can impersonate ally shinobi, so the medical camp goes into lockdown, and the injured who aren't already inside just have to lay on the ground on the battlefield with no medical attention. What happened to the 1-to-3 medic to shinobi ratio on the battlefield Tsunade wanted? Why didn't we do that? Ino literally says at one point during this arc that she's the only person in the entire platoon who knows any medical ninjutsu. That should not have happened. Who assembled this team? I also want Sakura more directly involved strategically and politically as Tsunade's apprentice during the war. She's in the meeting, she's giving orders, she's a jonin, she's the Hokage's protege, she's next in command of the medical corps after Tsunade and Shizune. We get to see Naruto and Shikamaru and Kakashi really step up as leaders during the war, so Sakura should too. Even if it's just having her on the telepathy group call with the other captains to give updates on casualties. We also see Tsunade and Shizune do a lot more improv surgery over the course of the show, and I think the war arc, like I said, would be a good time for Sakura to get a chance to do improv field surgery. She really gets her moment manually pumping Naruto's heart later on in the show, which is actually metal as hell, but more than just that is my point. More before it, more after it. Amputating someone's leg, reattaching an eye, sewing a finger back on, etc. Later on at episode 322, when Madara, who is the big bad reanimated shinobi, enters the battlefield and he drops a meteor on everybody and then they destroy it, and then he has a second meteor behind the first one, which is objectively funny. Like, sorry, but trump card is that I had a second one. Get fucked. But there are massive casualties after this, just bodies everywhere. So I think this is a prime opportunity for some Sakura time. In our version, she is then dispatched from the medical camp to support Gaara's unit and then is present for the beginning of the 5 Kage versus Madara fight. So Sakura is running around the devastation of the second meteor, healing whoever she can, but losing more people than she saves. Bonus points if she gets pretty fucked up in the blast too and has to Seal of 100 Wolverine heal her way out of it. Then she leaves on Tsunade's orders to go give Naruto and Killer Bee support at the other front, and leaves like normal to join up with the plot points over there, and leaves the 5 Kage to fight Madara like normal. During all this, reanimated Itachi, who was broken free of the reanimation jutsu that was controlling them to fight against the villages, meets up with Sasuke, and they take down Kabuto, who is doing the reanimation jutsu. Kabuto kidnapped Anko earlier on, who was promptly kind of forgotten about and never brought up, but they take down Kabuto and then they leave, and in the original, Anko just kind of stays unconscious on the floor, maybe? I don't remember what happens to her, actually. But the point is, in my version, in our version, Anko wakes up and then rushes to take the intel that Itachi and Sasuke took down Kabuto to the allied shinobi forces, and meets up with Sakura's team on the way to help Naruto. As they go together to the front, tells her what happened with Sasuke and Itachi, and then Sakura is conflicted to hear Sasuke actually helped, and wavers away from Team Kill Sasuke. Having this intel earlier on makes her more primed to accept Sasuke's abrupt side switch later. Then we have the kaiju fight, which is fine, I guess. Sakura shows up and heals Kakashi and a few others like normal. Everyone is getting knocked around, so she could also systematically snap like 3 people's dislocated limbs back into their sockets. Let her do some stuff.
I'm about to pee my pants here.
Don't bring up piss in front of the piss no jutsu, dog. Shortly after this, Shikaku and Inuichi and the rest of headquarters get blown up by like an airstrike. So Sakura, while obviously distressed, should be giving orders to the medical unit on the battlefield. Just like, Unit 4, cover the south flank, or something, or anything. Just like, she just has to be doing something. Sasuke's off reanimating the first 4 Hokage during this, and Sakura should have some internal monologue like, damn, I wonder what he's doing, somewhere around there. And then also a pretty extensive inner monologue on Inuichi's death, because he died in the HQ airstrike. This is part of the reason we established a relationship between Sakura and Inuichi earlier. Sakura doesn't really lose anyone she was close to during the war or even the entire show, unlike every other major character. The closest we get is Chiyo, and that's kind of it. She comparatively walks out of Shippuden pretty unscathed, with her team, mentors, close friends, and family all still alive. Obviously, our Sakura is an orphan from the start, but to involve her more thematically in the tragedies of war and a militarized society, we have considered Inuichi a father figure, so she can lose him in war, basically. So she should be very obviously distraught, but still giving orders. Like tears streaming down her face, but her voice is even kind of energy. Then the reanimated Hokage that Orochimaru and Sasuke reanimated show up, and Minato has an interaction with Sakura and Naruto that we will discuss later, so put a pin in that. As for Sakura's reaction to Sasuke showing up on the battlefield, we will also talk more about this later, but for now, she should be angry but tepidly hopeful. She's a little too immediately down with it originally. It makes sense for Naruto to instantly accept him, but Sakura should be more withdrawn at first. Sakura should be extremely hesitant to trust him, because while they've all fought, in our version, Sasuke has tried to jump her twice while she was just trying to reason with him. I think Sasuke should look a little nervous and uncomfortable too. Nothing crazy, but just like shifty eyes and make him sweat a little. He can still talk his shit a little, but we have to make him come across as more overcorrecting for nerves, as opposed to despises Sakura. Then he has his whole I want to become Hokage speech. He's just saying things at that point. It's the most irrational thing ever, but it is really funny. He said, make me president, I've got some ideas. Sakura has a series of flashbacks and then unlocks her Seal of 100 at this point in the original story. So I think in our version, she should have a series of flashbacks about how she used to not GAF about her job at all, and now she's on the front lines of a war commanding the medical unit. She thinks about Tsunade and Kakashi and Inuichi and Naruto and Ino, primarily during this. And then maybe a little Sasuke at the end. And here, instead of unlocking her Seal of 100, because in our version she already has that, this is where she uses Slug Sage mode for the first time. And I think it should come with little slug antenna, the way Naruto's comes with little toad eyes when he does his. So she can still summon Katsuyu and give everyone a little Katsuyu to heal them, because Naruto can't use his chakra cloak to heal at the moment, because he was doing that before, but he can't right now. So she summons Katsuyu to heal people, and so she still does that, but the slug she's sitting on is much bigger and taking out enemies while she focuses on the long distance healing. I want Slug Sage Mode to allow Sakura to summon a much larger portion of Katsuyu than she usually could, because their chakras are like harmonized or whatever. And I think Katsuyu should be able to absorb and dissolve things, because Katsuyu can already spit poisons and acids, so when Katsuyu slides forward, she should vaporize the goons in front of her with her slug juice or whatever. We also find out around here that the Akatsuki leader is actually Kakashi's old presumed dead teammate Obito, who I have already spoken in reference to without explaining it, but now we find out that his presumed dead teammate Obito, Uchiha, is in fact alive and is the quote-unquote leader of the Akatsuki, and him and reanimated Madara are the villains now. We're fighting them now. This arc has a lot of really funny moments. I'm obsessed with episode 298 where Naruto and Killer Bee are fighting Itachi and Nagato, who are reanimated, and it's just like so friendly and good-natured, because the whole time it's just like,
was
nicely dodged,
Naruto.
I'm behind you. Love the sportsmanship of that fight. This arc is super guilty of Schrodinger's chakra level, wherein everybody has both enough and not enough chakra for their next attack, and you don't know until you open the box. So that's not great for narrative tension, but this is also Naruto, so I don't know what we expected. Funniest part of this arc is Naruto trying to draft an ostrich into war.
There's no way I'm going to war.
Oh, yeah?
Now's my chance to slip away and disappear. No way am I going to war.
Second is a genjutsu countermeasure.
Bookish types like me aren't used to being stared at.
Genjutsu countermeasure.
Third is Itachi's VLR-ass explanation of his nonsensical genjutsu jutsu.
Overlaying and connecting A to A prime. The Izanami also links a path including B prime and C prime to create fluctuations within a fixed time. Thus, you can create an infinite loop.
And fifth is Danzo using Konzo as his fake name when he goes undercover in the Land of Rain and says he's friends with Hanzo. Impeccable espionage.
Pick up a boulder with relative ease. Come on, Cranky, take it to the bridge. Walnuts.
Okay, miscellaneous filler arcs now. So there's a bunch of random filler in the middle of the war arc, and we're gonna lump it all together and talk about it here. Mostly the Kakashi backstory filler stuff, because I think that has the most relevant information to Sakura. Seeing Kakashi be 13 and miserable is truly endearing. Great stuff for Kakashi here. There's also some stuff for Danzo, but it's not as good. Because Danzo essentially orders a hit on the third Hokage and doesn't lose his job, let alone go to prison. He stays an advisor, the third Hokage just kind of overlooks it, and then they let him stay after suspecting him of human experiments and working with Orochimaru, and after he kind of went behind the third Hokage's back with the Uchiha massacre. Like, will nothing get this guy fired? Danzo is Hiruzen Sasuke, but worse. The third Hokage keeps trusting him again and again, while Danzo just absolutely runs wild, and by the time he's trying to murder Shisui, we should have been at least cutting him out of certain operations. It gets ridiculous at a certain point, which is why I think it's better if the third Hokage's tendency to put his faith in Danzo was more explicitly framed as a blind spot and a failure of judgment far more severely than it originally is, because Danzo is just an absolute menace in this story. He's crazy. Like, he's on like crazy pills the whole time, and he never faces any repercussions until Sasuke just murks him in a river somewhere. But speaking of the third Hokage, there's this scene where the third Hokage is explaining his choice to form Team 7 to Kakashi, and he is explaining how he wanted to have the Sharingan and the Nine Tails on the same team together, since the Sharingan can hypothetically control the Nine Tails, and Kakashi is like, what about Sakura? Why is she on the team? And the third Hokage is like, oh, she's cool too, I guess. I don't know. Maybe having a girl around will help them be motivated, give them someone to impress. I'm not even joking. This is the real, actual, factual reason he gives for Sakura being on the squad. I'm pretty sure I don't have to explain why this is a blatant acknowledgement of the fact that Sakura is treated as an afterthought, and as if she does not matter relative to the men she's expected to motivate and support. I stuck a girl on the squad to improve the behavior and relationship of the boys. Every well-behaved, academically successful girl knows this trick, I fear. This is framed as legitimate and positive as opposed to horrendously offensive to Sakura. Even the fact that Team 7 was constructed and assigned to Kakashi to improve his mental health and bring him out of the darkness, and he's the only one who can train Sasuke's Sharingan, and he knew Naruto's father, and he knew Itachi, and he worked cleanup on the massacre, and he guarded Naruto's mom while she was pregnant, etc., etc. He has all these intimate and intricate narrative connections with the boys, and he lacks that with Sakura, which is why I advocated earlier for a more contextualized relationship between the two. Even something as simple as Kakashi being the one to find baby Sakura in the rubble of the Nine-Tails attack is enough to give them at least something. If Sakura is supposed to be the Rin of the group, it falls flat because, like I said, the only thing they have in common is girl. It doesn't help that Rin doesn't have a backstory either. Kakashi and Obito have origins and families and last names with history. Sakura and Rin don't have any real commonalities because neither is robustly characterized or developed enough to really thematically parallel each other. Rin especially. Sakura's similarities to Rin feel tacked on too late, like she was changed retroactively on a whim to be similar. We don't know much about Rin at all other than that she was really, really nice and easy to get along with and died tragically. As I keep famously saying, Sakura being on the team as a behavior buffer for the boys could have been interesting if we went somewhere with that. If she felt frustrated about it, if she was saddled with things that weren't really her responsibility because of it, if she had some kind of reaction to that happening to her. But she doesn't. It would be interesting if it went somewhere, but it doesn't. And so with that, it is framed as just like a completely normal, not strange thing to do, and because it goes unaddressed, it hurts her character. If she had a whole emotional moment about being sick and tired of playing diplomat between the two of them, that could be interesting. But we don't really get that, and so in that sense, it's just kind of insulting to her character. Ten Tails arc. So Obito becomes the Ten Tails Jinchuriki, which is all the tailed beasts stuck together, and then he turns into a Bleach villain for some reason. Then he's not. Then Madara is the Ten Tails Jinchuriki, and then he transforms into something, and then some but not all of the beasts are pulled back out, and Naruto and Sasuke both sort of die and then immediately come back to life after having a vision of a lore important godlike figure telling them that they are the reincarnations of his two sons. Might Guy beats the hell out of Madara for a while but doesn't quite finish the job. Then Obito gets talk no jutsu'd into switching sides, and then Sakura is manually pumping Naruto's heart for most of this while he's having his, super reincarnation vision. They have to defeat Madara lest the sacred evil tree bear evil chakra fruit that will end the world. Naruto is sort of a messiah now. It's whatever, we'll talk about the lore later, just don't worry about it. So when the 3D tree shows up and they go all full kaiju, I'm fine with Sakura falling back like she normally does and sticking with Tsunade for a while to heal everyone, because I have zero clue how she could possibly participate in whatever is going on right now.
Shadow Wizard Buddy Gang. We love casting spells. Legalize nuclear bombs. Swag.
I like that they summon Katsuyu together, so it's fine. They're still doing something, so it's okay with me. Then, when Madara starts fighting them and Obito switches sides, she can tend to Naruto like normal. Might Guy beats up Madara, then Naruto beats up Madara. He and Sasuke both get new superpowers in the Purgatory Shadow Realm, and so while they fight, Sakura is chilling with Obito in a jutsu pocket dimension. He asks her to destroy his Rinnegan, which is a lore important magic eye that Madara wants to take from him, and she hesitates and gets squeamish about it, which makes zero sense given that she's a war surgeon who has brutally murdered several people before. I don't know what her problem is here. It of course results in Madara getting to Obito and taking his eye. We can solve all of this by just changing the timing. Have her be ice cold about it, and Madara can pop in and lunge at her as soon as she raises the knife, and then Obito sends her out of the pocket dimension back to the regular world to save her. Just don't include several seconds of her shaking and standing around. Thanks. Anyway, Naruto is like Jesus now and can do magic, costless regeneration on other people, which is so diabolical because it invalidates Sakura's whole skill set. Kakashi gets his eye stolen a little bit before this and then Naruto regrows it, but I think that's stupid. I think Sakura should somehow use her mitotic regeneration jutsu to regrow Kakashi's eye to show how good she is as a doctor, instead of Naruto getting to have her stolen valor. Naruto can still be the ninja messiah, but you have to let Sakura still be the healer, okay? Let the doctor be the medic at least. Shortly after this, Kakashi has an inner monologue about each of his 3 students, and he thinks about Naruto's dream to be Hokage, and Sasuke's revenge, and you get 3 guesses what he talks about for Sakura. Option A is her growth as a person, option B is her technical skill as a doctor, and option C is her romantic feelings for Sasuke. Do you know which one it is? I'm sure you can guess based on my tone. Ding ding ding, it's option C. Can you believe this shit? We didn't have anything else you could say about her. Nothing. I think Sakura's attitude towards Sasuke as the battle progresses should slowly slip back into something similar to their old dynamic, and then she should realize this, and then it should make her uncomfortable, and then she overcorrects to being extremely standoffish, and this can happen more than one time. There's this scene where she rushes Madara only to immediately get stabbed, and it's genuinely so funny to me. Like, I know she says, like, I'll be the diversion right before she does it, but the way it plays out always makes me laugh, because, like, who wrote this scene? John Mulaney?
I didn't want them planning anything or developing any strategy.
How long?
Sasuke doesn't even react a little bit to her getting stabbed. He does not GAF, and she notices and she's upset about it, which I hate. For what purpose would we include this? Because Naruto's all, like, worried about her, like, are you okay, Sakura? And Sasuke doesn't care at all. I think we should flip everything about this scene. I think Sakura should genuinely land a hit. Nothing crazy or really that permanent, but just enough to knock him back. And then she gets stabbed. And then Naruto pulls her away. And she should not care at all whether or not Sasuke cares she got stabbed. Because she shouldn't be thinking about that because she has the seal of 100, so it doesn't matter. But what should happen is that Naruto's completely zen and chill about it because he also knows that Sakura has the seal of 100 and will regenerate. But Sasuke does not have this information and freaks out a little when she gets stabbed. We need him to visibly care about her well-being during this arc to offset some of his previous actions. Shortly after this, Madara's evil jutsu works and everyone gets trapped in the dream world genjutsu, but Sasuke protects Team 7, so the 4 of them are the only ones unaffected. Yamato comes back, which he got kidnapped earlier, and I didn't mention it because I forgot that it happened. He's gone for like over 100 episodes, and nobody talks about him, and then he comes back and gets immediately raptured, so it doesn't really matter. But there's so much bizarre lore going on here that at this point it gets kind of difficult for anyone except Naruto and Sasuke to do literally anything in the story, but we tried. This show starts with everyone having unique specialized skills that advantage different people in different situations, and by the end, NaruSasu are godlike beings with such a wide range of abilities that almost everyone else is rendered obsolete. The funniest part of this arc is like the VeggieTales beanstalk ash 3D tree. Goes to show you the crunch they had these animators on, honestly. They didn't even fully texture it. They didn't even try to. It's like, it looks like something I would make. I love it so much. Kaguya arc. So everyone is still trapped in the tree genjutsu, but it's done casting so they can move freely now. Team 7 are the only 4 people who are alive who are still moving around, plus the reanimated Hokage who were not affected. Madara gets Digimoned into Kaguya, who is now the new villain, hashtag T-Girl rep. The way Sasuke has to be, like, gentle parented into being bare minimum nice to Sakura by the rest of Team 7 for the entire war arc, but here especially, he needs to lay off and she needs to bite back. Sasuke later chooses to save Naruto from falling into a vat of lava and just leaves Kakashi and Sakura to figure it out, and they do, but still. Sakura's crying again, and now she's thinking about whether or not Sasuke likes her enough to let her die when she should be thinking, holy fuck, is that lava? I don't mind the majority of the Kaguya fight being that Naruto and Sasuke show. That's fine. Nobody cares about this specific rim-ass fight very much anyway. There's a bunch of Kaguya backstory that most people don't care for either. I don't hate Kaguya. Certainly less than most people, but that doesn't change the fact that it is a totally bizarre left field thematic turn in the story that feels last minute and doesn't suit anything else that was happening before it. Sakura and Obito team up, and then we have the one time Sasuke is nice to Sakura in the entirety of Shippuden. They fight some more, Obito sacrifices himself to save everyone else. It takes absolutely forever because it's interspersed with 40 minutes of flashback, and I am not exaggerating. It really does take that long. This show's on crazy time. Then Naruto is like, don't insult Obito. Obito is nothing but awesome to me, as if Obito did not literally murder Neji like a few episodes ago. They win and go back to the real world because they're in like a pocket dimension while this happens. Everything is great, and then Sasuke decides to rock the boat again and attacks everyone. This guy's got one solution to everything, and it's stupid. Then Sasuke puts Sakura in genjutsu of some kind so she won't follow when he goes to run off and fight with Naruto because they're gonna duke it out. He's really nasty to her in this scene, so also put a pin in that too. But as per my Sakura build, our Sakura would perfect parry the genjutsu, or better yet, take control of it from Sasuke. Sasuke is shaken up by it because he's like, whoa, didn't know she could do that. And then he and Naruto run off to keep fighting, and Sakura and Kakashi can't pursue because they're wiped from fighting, and Sakura passes out from exhausting her seal of 100. Sakura should be absolutely livid, remember, because our version got Tsukuyomi'd back in part 1, so she's got bad memories with fish. Realistically, the meat of what I would want to alter for this arc for Sakura is her relationship and dynamic with Sasuke. They really don't directly address each other the entire time until the very end. So when he calls her annoying, she should look right back at him and call him a loser. And Sasuke should still be a little stiff and nervous around her, and she should be prickly with him. Originally, she just takes it. This arc ends with Sasuke and Naruto blasting each other's dominant arms off.
Love casting spells.
And then Sakura has to clean up the damage. When Sasuke says he's sorry while she's healing them at the end of this arc, she should just give him a dirty look. She should be maybe a little conflicted, but ultimately pissed, and then starts crying, and then gives him the silent treatment for the next several episodes. At the end of this arc, Sasuke heals in the village, and then he leaves the village to go on some kind of redemption quest that is extremely non-specific. And when he's leaving, his interaction with Sakura at the gate should be tense and awkward and just like horrifically, like, just cut the tension with a knife, just awful. As it stands, he's just like, bye, and she's like, oh, you don't want to hang out more? And he's like, fuck no, and then he leaves. And then he runs into Naruto, and then they have a big, long, verbose internal monologue about each other, and like, when he's talking with Sakura, he should be fumbling with his words, and she should be apprehensive. Sakura's giving him nothing, just silent treatment, stone cold, cold shoulder, and he's genuinely upset about it and is like, oh my god, she hates me. I'm so screwed. Funniest part of this arc is Sasuke's montage editing. The last 20 or so episodes-ish arc thing. Like I said, I want some painfully awkward, intense post-war scenes between Sasuke and Sakura. The way they're just fine with each other immediately is silly. His shoulders should be locked, and he should be struggling with eye contact. We get several episodes around here dedicated to characters' childhoods, and then Sasuke's story, Shikamaru's story, and then the Leaf story, which takes place about 2 years after the end of the war. Sakura's childhood segment, her big problem is being insecure about her forehead being too big. Naruto's is about being an isolated orphan, Hinata's is about her abusive family structure, Sasuke's is about childhood memories before his entire family got massacred, and Sakura's is about her damn forehead again. And her crush on Sasuke. I can't do this! In our version, I would much prefer this to be a flashback to Sakura's time with Ino and Inuichi when she was little, being saved from being alone in the same way Naruto was by having Inuichi invite her over for dinner and arguing with Ino over who gets the last helping. Sasuke's story is pretty good, and I like seeing him be a functional person for once, but it should involve Sasuke agonizing over his relationship with Sakura. I like that he travels and helps people and feeds stray cats. This is all good, but Sakura does not seem to cross his mind even once. He gives a speech about hope and peace and how Naruto saved him and connects him to the Leaf Village, but doesn't say anything about Sakura. Sakura talks and thinks about Sasuke in basically every scene she's in, and Sasuke doesn't bring her up once. He needs to be staring at the stars and thinking about her and yearning. There's an ending during this arc where Team 7 plays baseball and Genma, a random background character, is referee in the setup instead of Sakura, who is relegated to cheerleader in the stands. Wonderful and succinct illustration of the problem. We do also get the fabulous confirmation between Naruto and Sasuke that Naruto is in fact the pitcher. Fucking knew it. I think the main issue with Sakura is just quantity. Sakura had a couple of good moments, but given the length of the show and the amount of things to do that other characters got, she really has very little. Shikamaru easily has 4 times the narrative relevance and affects the plot to a much greater degree, and he's a full-on side character. In addition to Sasuke's story and Shikamaru's story, I think we needed a Sakura story here at the end of the show too, that was 5 or 6 episodes long about her transitioning into leading the hospital. Maybe she and Tsunade go on a little trip to another village to propose a hospital research partnership program with the hospitals of the other villages, and they have a couple heart-to-heart conversations, and Sakura gets to beat the hell out of a few people along the way. Tsunade can grill Sakura a little bit about how she feels about Sasuke, and then they can travel to other villages. They can do this because Sakura stunted in the sand at the beginning of Shippuden, where she created an antidote for the poison that was afflicting Kankuro, strengthened political relations between the leaf and the sand. So they opt to pursue a form of medical diplomacy here. Realistically, Sakura and Tsunade would be just as popular internationally, if not more so, than Naruto. They personally healed and saved the lives of hundreds of shinobi from all 5 villages. Tsunade is the only reason any of the other 5 Kage are still alive, and Sakura was on the team that took down Kaguya, so they could spend some time in the Hidden Mist or the Hidden Stone because the Mist only recently turned away from extremely bloody practices, and I think we know the least about the stone at this point. The show ends with an arc about Naruto and Hinata's wedding, an event that everyone attends except Sasuke, including Orochimaru. If you haven't seen the show, do not ask, there is no explanation for this.
What is absolutely necessary for a wedding ceremony?
Love?
I believe that the more correct answer is the Orochimaru.
Part 11, SasuSaku. Naruto and Sasuke are obviously completely in love by the end of the show, but if we were trying to make the quote-unquote canon relationship work, we're gonna have to make several changes. Number one is that Sasuke has to beg for Sakura's forgiveness, and she has to be against dating him at first at the end of Shippuden. Funnily enough, Kishimoto can't write a heterosexual romance to save his life, but is extremely talented at writing a homoerotic friendship. This includes Kakashi and Might Guy, but not Kakashi and Obito. They're gonna string me up and put me on trial in yaoi court for that one, but I stand firm. Kakashi and Obito are toxic friends, and Kakashi and Might Guy are a fulfilling gay marriage. Generally speaking, in this show, there's routinely 2 male members of a team with a complex, intense relationship that can be easily read as romantic, and then one of them randomly professes their love for a girl they have next to no actual relationship with. It's like clockwork. Naruto and Sasuke, Kakashi and Obito, Neji and Lee, Yahiko and Nagato, Izumu and Katetsu from Guard Duty. There's no girl in that one, but they're just in love.
What's wrong, Katetsu?
The only time this even kind of works is Jiraiya and Tsunade because their bond is pretty believable, but only in adulthood, not really in the flashbacks. Sometimes I think their relationship works, other times I think Jiraiya should be shot. To be clear, I'm not saying every male friendship in the show is homoerotic. Shikamaru and Choji are normal best friends. Kakashi and Yamato are good friends. Shikamaru and Naruto, Shikaku and Asuma, Kiba and Shino, etc. But some of these are extremely homoerotic, and there is no denying that. For the sake of trying to work within the bounds of the canon, we're doing this, though. I'm essentially trying to workshop SasuSaku into something that can compete with NaruSasu, which is to say not even Sisyphus is jealous of my boulder right now. That said, I do see why people like this ship, and I do think about what they could have been if the execution had been better. Or existent, for that matter. One of the main points that SasuSaku lovers love to bring up against naysayers is you just can't handle complicated relationships. And admittedly, that is kind of true most of the time. But in this case, I'd say that SasuSaku isn't complicated enough. By the war arc, the relationship reads like Sakura still has feelings for him, and has the entire time, meanwhile he can't stand her at all. Getting SasuSaku carries most of the complexity, and even then it could use a bit of work. SasuSaku should be confusing, it should be heart-wrenching. I want to see an exploration of Sakura's repressed resentment and Sasuke's guilt. That man's atonement involved doing everything except talking to the woman he did dirty crazy style and is allegedly in love with. I want to see them argue. Like, for real, serious argue. I'm left wondering how the hell we got here by the end of Shippuden. How did they work everything out? Or rather, why are they acting like they didn't have anything to work out? Change number 1, he should be unwilling to actually hurt her and not be slinging mud at her nearly as much. As it stands, Sasuke stays dissing Sakura and Shippuden. Like, she won't even be talking, and she still will be catching strays from him. It's actually hilarious. Because textually it reads like he just fucking hates her ass. Also, she never stands up for herself. Like, girl, come on. We'd have to either tone down the sass on his part or make her call him names back, or both. We need some equality here. In episode 113, Orochimaru gets on Sasuke's case for favoring non-lethal takedowns. So even at that point in the story, Sasuke still really dislikes killing unless he absolutely must, so the fact that he's later on just like, sure, fuck it, I'll kill Sakura, is that much worse. And like, yes, he's losing it by the time the confrontation happens, but that's also one of the most important people in his life, so I think it kind of balances out. She should have been so pissed off that he treated her that way, and she just doesn't. She just takes it. It's so infuriating. Let her yell at him. Let her call him a prick. Like, please, 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 you have to. It's established in OG Naruto that Sakura is like the one person Sasuke is even vaguely protective of other than Naruto, and they throw that out in Shippuden. Although even in part 1, he's constantly hanging her out to dry, which is admittedly pretty easy because she doesn't have much going on besides thinking about him, and it makes it painfully obvious how little he thinks about her. So a little balance there too, with him considering her a bit more and her considering him a bit less, would also equalize this relationship a bit more. Sasuke is obsessive and a yearner, and we know this and we see it, so his indifference to her almost reads twice as bad. If his actions towards Sakura were the most we ever saw him show interest in someone, it could almost work, but he gives so much of a fuck about Naruto all the time that it makes his bond with Sakura look like small potatoes in comparison. We need Sasuke going out of his way for Sakura more in part 1, or even having a couple of full-length normal conversations, if you could imagine that. Sakura's either flirting at him, or they just shout something to each other in combat, and that's like 80% of their Genin dialogue. So if they talk casually about something even as mundane as the weather, it would still help. I'm of the mind that Sakura should be the one person Sasuke tells things about himself. Not anything too intense, but stuff like his favorite tea or his opinion on rainy weather, since he doesn't even say that much to other people. All the time Sasuke does show Sakura affection, it's either because he's gravely injured or it's weirdly patronizing. Like the bench scene. She says, "I know you hate me," and he doesn't even remotely try to deny. He's just like, "Yeah, sorta." And then she talks about another time he got pissed at her, and he's literally just like, "I don't remember that." I don't really like her angle during this conversation. I don't think "please date me" was ever going to work on him, and I think she should know that. I think Sakura should have been trying to reason her way through that conversation, like listing other people he could go to for power, or pointing out how shady Orochimaru is. I think she can still confess or let her feelings slip for him here, and I think it should be the first time she's ever verbalized it. We get small hints here and there prior to this, but this is the first time she's ever said anything out loud about it to Sasuke. Then he leaves anyway. In the original scene, the implication is that he knocks her out because she threatened to scream, which is like, he fully lets her hit the ground too from the sound of it.
Sakura.
Anyway, I want this conversation to play out in such a way that she's pissed afterward instead of demoralized. Part of it can come from embarrassment and anger that he brushed her feelings off so harshly, and the other part is that she's not ready to give up on him yet. When it comes to Sakura's Genin flirting, Sasuke feels so obviously like a person who would not be into that or really focused on romance that Sakura just kind of seems like she's harassing him. Funnily enough, in the the Road to Ninja movie world, where everyone has opposite personalities of their canon personality, opposite Sasuke is interested in romance. It's opposite Sasuke's defining character trait is that he's interested in love and romance and, like, girls. The thing is that Sasuke is actually very emotionally inclined and emotionally intelligent and observant person, especially in childhood. He seems very aware of the way he comes across to other people, he's just being a dick on purpose. Sakura's comparative lack of situational awareness makes her come off as a little stupid sometimes, which I don't think is great characterization. I do think one of the interesting elements to this is that Sakura is typically very honest and realistic about her feelings and her situation, while Sasuke is almost never honest about either of those things ever. He struggles a lot with thinking rationally about situations as soon as his feelings are involved. He can strategize in a battle, but his big picture awareness is crazy distorted by his worldview and life experiences to the point of his perception of reality being straight up wrong sometimes. Either that or he's willingly lying to himself. He's only really very rational as a genin and only when things aren't personal. With our characterization of Sakura as more of a pragmatist, I think all of her relationship with Team 7 gets more interesting, Sasuke especially. Being a pragmatist gives her something in common with Kakashi, a relationship that desperately needed more framing, and puts her in opposition to both Naruto and Sasuke. I think a lot of people perceive Sasuke as rational because he emotes less, but over the course of the story he is overwhelmingly driven by emotion. He frequently picks the less rational, less efficient option because he's emotional. Exhibit A, going to Orochimaru. Jiraiya and Tsunade were both in the village by the time he defected. He had other options to at least try. He could have at least tried going to Tsunade and asking her for part of Itachi's files to be unsealed, especially if the third had been cagey about that information, a new Hokage who wasn't even in the village at the time of the massacre, being in charge now. I'd be all over that. Like, you haven't read the file yet either, Lady Tsunade, let's read it together. Or trying to figure out exactly why Itachi was afraid of a confrontation with Jiraiya and ran away, and then leveraging that. He went straight to the snake's den, literally, with limited information and extremely high risk. It was luck that Orochimaru had to jump bodies hours before Sasuke got there and was therefore given 3 years of training instead of immediately getting possessed. Exhibit B, going into the Eight Tails fight with basically no info on the scale of Killer Bee's power and then getting blasted in a 1v4. He just walked right up to him. Exhibit C, Sasuke trying to go straight to the Leaf Village with no rest after killing Zanzo when he's in the middle of going blind. He frequently does stupid things like this and manages to scrape by because he's Sasuke and he's very powerful and good at thinking on his feet and had help a lot of the time. But that doesn't change the premise of the situation itself, being that he makes bad plays and barely scrapes through. Him being seemingly indifferent to Sakura by the end of the show is damning to the relationship because Sasuke's not some kind of rational stoic, he's an emotional mess with a really good poker face. He's so clearly affected by Naruto, Kakashi, Itachi, etc. in one way or another, but he just could not care less about Sakura. I don't mind complicated, I don't mind them even injuring each other physically as long as it's mutual. Naruto's set in a world with what I lovingly like to call a child soldier industrial complex. Final Fantasy VIII has one also. Oh. So them fighting would track with being raised in such a world of violence. It's the fact that Sakura is always just kind of taking it that pisses me off. Sakura canonically low-key has anger issues and talks better trash than like 90% of the cast, and I think we should double down on that. I think a large part of why people find her unlikable is she comes off as two-faced between her treatment of Naruto compared to her treatment of Sasuke. It reads as her being fake in front of the guy she likes, but it's never really explored. She's essentially written with two separate personalities depending on who she's talking to, and it does not seem intentional. Besides, the fact that she talks so much game and so ready to beat someone's ass with her allies and then folds under any real pressure constantly makes her seem like someone who only acts tough when there's no real threat. I think we should establish her exasperated, violent, trash-talking side as her more canon true personality and frame her nice girl act as something that takes effort for her to maintain, or even scrap it entirely. Or make it clear that she's an angry trash talker and that her nice girl act is a deliberate attempt to lower people's guards and appear innocent. I really think the issue isn't that she's mean, it's that she's inconsistent. Everyone else on Team 7 is realistically kind of an asshole at the start. Sasuke is standoffish and arrogant, Naruto is inconsiderate and reckless, and Kakashi is aloof and wastes other people's time on purpose. All of them are still likable because at least they're being genuine. So I do think it's okay to make Sakura kind of an asshole too, we just have to do it on purpose this time. It's the asshole trauma orphan team and Sakura should be included. Since we get to hear the thoughts and internal monologues of characters frequently, if we want this to work, Sasuke needs to actually think about Sakura and his internal monologue fairly often. Sakura is constantly thinking about Sasuke, and Sasuke is always thinking about Naruto, and sometimes Itachi, and Naruto thinks about both of them, but definitely Sasuke more. So Sasuke needs to be shown having Sakura on his mind. We need to see Sasuke being affected by Sakura, her presence, someone mentioning her name, something indicating even that the thought of her sets him off a bit, especially once he's defected. Much of Sakura's characterization in the story feels very accidental and like the author was just trying to write girl and didn't have any definitive traits in mind for her. I think another way to make them feel closer is if Sakura can read Sasuke a bit better. She seems mostly baffled by his choices and doesn't come across as understanding his psyche nearly as deeply as Naruto or even Kakashi does. That scene in Jiraiya Naruto's potential disaster, for some reason I wrote the entire episode name into my script instead of the number, which would be a lot more helpful. She wonders to herself if Sasuke has a sweet tooth and is going to bring him sweet food when we as the audience already know at this point that Sasuke doesn't like sweets at all. Stuff like this is bad news for her character because it makes it glaringly obvious that she knows fuck all about Sasuke despite claiming to be in love with him, which, as I'm going to say for the millionth time, if they were going somewhere with that, it would be fine, but they don't. For our purposes, I think it's better for Sakura to instead actually have a very solid working knowledge of Sasuke's preferences and mannerisms, and having moments where she thinks to herself, oh man, he's not gonna like that, instead of being clueless, which makes her emotional investment in him feel more authentic. Throughout Shippuden, Sakura and Sasuke have such limited interactions that by late Shippuden, when they finally interact more, it feels like they almost don't even really know each other. When Sasuke returns to help in the war arc, Sakura should be extremely hesitant. Like I said it so many times. I really mean it, can you tell? I am a certified forehead tap hater, by the way. That was a gesture between Itachi and Sasuke that always had some sort of tragic parental implication to me, since Itachi was more of a parent to Sasuke than either of his actual parents really were, especially his father. So when Sasuke whipped that trick out of the playbook on Sakura, it earned a huge side eye from me. Plus, that forehead tap was symbolic of Itachi's emotional distance from Sasuke and his propensity to lie and delay spending time with him. He graduates to forehead pressing during his second death. Itachi moves past the forehead tap to symbolize finally being emotionally present for Sasuke, then Sasuke reinvents the whole problem bar for bar by being an absent partner. It's bad and I don't like it. At the end of the show, Sasuke then fucks off for years on end and Sakura doesn't see him at all and barely hears from him. He doesn't go to Naruto's wedding, and he leaves Sakura and their daughter alone in the village for years, to the point that when Sakura goes on a trip and asks her daughter what she wants her to bring back, her daughter asks for her father. Sakura says her first date with Sasuke was 2.5 minutes, and she's pretty sure Sasuke forgot about it. She framed his terrorist ninja mugshot because there was no other family photos. He leaves his family for so long that he can barely remember his daughter at all and almost kills her upon encountering her for the first time. Sasuke justifies leaving her by saying that Sarada, his daughter, is better off with Sakura in the village, which in that case, why did you even have a child then if they're better off without you? What was the point of that? Just left Sakura with the full burden of raising a child alone. Because all of this happens in Boruto, or is established in Boruto. We started getting, like, I think time travel bullshit in Boruto not long after this, so I'm not even remotely tapped into what's going on in Boruto these days, and I don't want to be, and I will not check. But it cracks me up all the time, because, like, all of this absent fathery from the guy who can teleport. I know I said I wouldn't talk about Boruto, but that shit is too funny for me. I couldn't resist. My point is, you should scrap all of that. Scrap it from your mind. I have treated strangers and coworkers with more consideration than Sasuke does his wife, so. Poor Sakura is in a lavender marriage and everyone else knows this except her. I seriously think Sasuke needed some kind of arc about whether or not he even really wanted kids. By the time he's on the other side of Shippuden and down an arm, he's seen the worst of his family and his village out in the open, and clearly has more than a few problems with self-loathing and needlessly torturing himself. A genuine reflection on if, after everything, he still feels the Uchiha legacy is even worth continuing. If having a kid will mean that that child has a target on their back for their entire life because of the family name and eyes they didn't choose to have. After learning the truth about Itachi's actions and the way his family had fractured long before they physically died, and the way the status of clan was the beginning of the end for the entire family, would he believe in himself enough to be an emotionally competent parent? In light of the fact that full usage of the Sharingan demands the death of loved ones, that it demands at least partial if not total vision loss, I just don't see the whole wife and kids happy nuclear family working out for Sasuke after everything he's been through. There's the fact that Fugaku was actually a half-decent father to Itachi when he was younger and significantly worse later and with Sasuke, playing into how Sasuke might view family dynamics. I really think someone like that would seek companionship outside of standard family structures. And I really think someone who knows what it's like to feel neglected by his father choosing to turbo-neglect his kid to a much more severe degree is characterization that needs to be addressed too. They really just had the kid so the kid could be a Boruto protagonist. But again, I don't think Boruto should exist, so I need to cleanse it from my aura. It's lingering. By the end of the show, SasuSaku has a full boatload of unresolved emotional tension to deal with, and we needed a full story arc focused on Sasuke trying to win her back, in his awkward, emotionally stunted, wet stray cat kind of way. Sakura working through her resentment over his choices, learning how to trust him again, and having a genuine journey to forgiveness that he earned. Sasuke grappling with the guilt of everything he's done and trying to find the balance between redemption and self-loathing. Having a few breakdowns along the way and buying her flowers way too often because he's still not sure what he's doing. As much as redemption is allegedly happening, Sasuke expresses very little guilt. It can be internal monologue, facial expressions, intentional framing, whatever. He doesn't have to say it out loud, but it should be clear that he is racked with guilt, not just over how he treated Sakura, but over killing Itachi and his defection and every other mistake he made. He has a lot to regret, and he's kind of chilling at acceptance right away.
Big mistakes is what I do.
Let Sakura go on dates. Let her date other guys. Let Sasuke be dejected about it. Sasuke is accustomed to being the sole object of her affection. Let him struggle with accepting when he's not anymore, be a catalyst for re-examining his feelings for her. Let him be depressed and miserable that she has a boyfriend and it's not him, and that's a wake-up call. Realistically, Sasuke and Naruto are like canonically soulmates, and it makes it so hard to form a convincing romantic relationship with anyone else because they have so much going on between them. But if Sasuke is willing to shoot to kill when it comes to Naruto and not Sakura, that would tip the scales a little bit in her favor. If his protective streak lasted instead of trying to kill her twice and then genjutsu killing her and then reading her to filth.
I don't read people.
Of course you don't, Tyra, because you're Christian. Come over here, girl.
Part 12. NaruSaku. So in all fairness, Sakura does not have to end up with someone romantically, and like I mentioned prior, there's plenty of other characters like Lee or Ino that she also pairs well with. But Sakura inarguably has the strongest connection to Naruto out of any other character in the story as it exists. A lot of that connection was very much explicitly characterized as romantic on Naruto's behalf, and Sakura easily has dozens of scenes dedicated to showing her affection towards Naruto growing. Naruto has a lot of chemistry with basically everyone, but for at least 600 episodes, Sakura is the only person he expresses any romantic interest in.
Gaara! You're so—
And I'd like to discuss the what if here. As much as I support the let them be friends and not everything has to be romance agenda, the reality is that Naruto is written to like Sakura romantically, very explicitly and directly, even if it's not well executed. Whenever the show sets out to write something as explicitly romantic, the whole thing nosedives in quality. NaruSaku is one of the only real exceptions to this in that the relationship is given much more nuance. Don't get me wrong, it's weird and over the top at times, and it's often far from good, but there are scenes in Shippuden that are far and away the strongest romance writing in the show outside of Shikamaru and Temari and Tsunade and Jiraiya, which are a lot more subdued in the background. And I also have mixed feelings about Jiraiya, because sometimes he works well with Tsunade, and other times I think he should be shot. Scenes between Naruto and Sakura that if you wanted different pairings to be even plausible, you probably need to remove. This part is tough because I don't like suggesting that something I thought was well done should be cut, but if NaruSaku isn't endgame, this angle needs to be different, with some kind of closure at least. We talked about Sakura's weird faux confession, but I wanted to discuss Naruto telling his dad that Sakura is his girlfriend mere minutes after having some tender hand-holding moment with Hinata, who is canonically in love with him. Why would earnest to a fault Naruto ever say this unless he was still romantically interested in Sakura and wasn't into Hinata at all? There's also the conversation Naruto has with Sai earlier in Shippuden added into the mix, where his affection for Sakura is treated as very legitimate by the story, and it's painted as like much more sincere and much more nuanced than a simple crush. And then it just goes away and it's never addressed, and him getting over it is never really explored. He just is engaged to Hinata at the end of the show. And this may or may not be worth mentioning, but I've been in and around the Naruto fandom long enough before the show or manga ended that by the time the final pairings became canon, it was kind of a surprise. After a certain point, people were pretty sure Naruhina was gonna happen. I was a Kiba Hina truther, so I was disappointed. But SasuSaku was still really up in the air up until the last minute, as you might imagine from Sasuke's attitude towards her. Naruto's fandom and the shipping territory especially was such an interesting place to be at the time because the romance was so the way that it is, that people were genuinely unsure about where any of it was going and almost anything felt possible. And in some ways that was true. We got some truly curveball pairings, but there was a period of time where a lot of people did really not believe that some of the retrospectively obvious pairings were going to happen at all. Part 13, NaruSasu. If you want to have Sasuke and Sakura work or Naruto and Hinata work, you have to tone down whatever Sasuke and Naruto have going on, and I think that's a shame because it's one of the strongest aspects of the story. It's a deeply homoerotic story at its core, and the fact that Sakura is sidelined the way she is contributes greatly to this. Even in scenes like in part 1 where Sasuke finds out Itachi is back in town and after Naruto, and his first instinct is to go find and protect Naruto, not confront Itachi. Yeah, I don't think he gets that worked up about anything related to Sakura ever.
Hey, Sasuke.
Where is Naruto?
There's constant ending and opening sequences that have Naruto and Sasuke staring longingly at each other, or like looking across a field at each other, or like chasing after each other, or staring into each other's eyes, and it really keeps you focused in this one regard. Naruto gets to have a way bigger moment over Sasuke's potential death in the Land of Waves arc than Sakura does, complete with a poorly edited montage including the scene of them kissing. Sasuke gives Naruto the whole heart-to-heart and they embrace, and when Sakura gets to Sasuke, he just complains.
It's hard to breathe with you on top of me. Ow, that hurts! How's Naruto?
The final battle at the Valley of the End is extremely intimate too, like the hand signs using each other's hands, whatever this like straddle situation was, and the fact that there's no music during it, and the fact that they both lose their dominant arm, and then they have a joint death dream sequence together looking at each other's memories. Like, it's oh my god. I am a woman in conflict, torn between two worlds. I am pulled into the orbit of the undeniable substance of NaruSasu, and yet the untapped potential of SasuSaku is so sexy to me the irony of which being that the latter is canon and the former is not. I am open to throuple discourse, especially since Naruto is Sakura's emotional rock for most of the series, but the weak spot for this is far and away the relationship between Sasuke and Sakura. When I explore SasuSaku in this essay, it comes from a place of curiosity and interest, not necessarily a rejection of the pretty much canon reality of Sasunaru. No, that's wrong. It's not Sasunaru, it's NaruSasu. I should be ashamed of myself. The scene where Naruto has a panic attack when he finds out that Sasuke attacked the Kage Summit, presumably out of fear that this might mean Sasuke will never be able to come back and they can never be together, was maybe the most serious I've been about a fictional romance ever. Everything they went through and they never ended up together. Just secret meetings behind their wives' backs. It's tragic, it's gay, and I genuinely don't think I can come up with anything to make SasuSaku compete, but I suppose you should be the judge of that. My test for gay ships like this usually, because often any amount of emotional connection or intimacy with men is instantly read as romantic because of the way patriarchy encourages men to repress love outside of heteronormativity, is to ask, if these characters were both women, would it still read as romantic? And this is a rare yes from me. I really don't think that was ever the intention, especially not with the reincarnated brothers bit by the end, but a lot of NaruSasu would still read as romantic to me even if they were two girls, which is rare. Women are allowed to have more emotional intimacy and affection in their friendships, so if what they have going on exceeds past that, I think it's certainly an understandable takeaway to see romance. And like I said, Naruto is the pitcher. It's NaruSasu, not Sasunaru, and I stand by that. This is a service top and Brad if I've ever seen one. Part 14, Politics in Naruto. So this isn't really what the rest of the video is about, but I have questions, or thoughts, or opinions, or whatever you may desire to call them, so we're gonna do that now. I don't understand the premise of Hokage. Why does the baddest wizard on the block mean that you get to be president? I understand that there's a nomination process, but it seems extremely bad. The Hokage selection process does not seem appropriately robust, I guess is what I'm saying about that. The role, the requirements, and the selection process of Hokage are kind of inconsistent throughout the story, much like the rest of Naruto's world building. The cliff looks different every other episode, it kills me, it's my favorite thing to look for. It's a fairly administration-heavy role, even though Naruto matures a lot, he never really has an arc where he confronts how different the role of Hokage is from what he thought it would be. He has a little bit in that he changes his tune and how he talks about it vaguely during the war arc, but there's not much outside of that. He wanted to be Hokage because he thought that having the love and the respect of the entire village and being the strongest ninja would mean that everyone would pay attention to him and not ostracize him anymore, right? But the executive head of a military state has more responsibility than that. Naruto doesn't seem to ever dissect if he's the best choice for Hokage just because he wants it enough. A lot of the core tasks of the job are firmly rooted in his areas of weakness. I think the ending of just, and he's Hokage now, the end, could have been much more impactful if he'd really reevaluated if he still wanted this now, that he has the love and respect of the village and is the village hero. Was being Hokage still the goal, still reasonable if he had everything he already thought that he wanted, and everything that he thought that the role would give him? Are there people better suited for political leadership than him? I think seeing Naruto ask these questions and also demonstrate a clearer aptitude for some of the more desk job elements of the work, because the Hokage should not be in the field 99% of the time, it would have made his eventual status as Hokage feel more satisfying and complete. I would also honestly support him not becoming Hokage if he had an arc about realizing that he's earned everyone's love and respect and that he doesn't need an official title for that. Plus, the system failed him and everyone he loves, and the fact that he doesn't want to get rid of the child soldier industrial complex but be president of it feels almost out of character for him. But I think that direction would make a lot of people very upset because that means our guy doesn't achieve the thing he wanted, so I won't argue too hard for it. I can support a change the system from the inside strategy, but by the start of Boruto, not much seems to be different about the system, even if technology and foreign affairs have improved. You still join the military at age 12, even in Boruto. After watching the system fail so dramatically, and the way it failed Sasuke specifically, who is Naruto's favorite person in the world, why would he want to be in charge of it for any other purpose than a top-to-bottom overhaul? After the whole Danzo is acting Hokage ordeal, how did that affect Naruto's perception of the role? As much as Naruto matures by the end of the show, he still has a long ways to go until he's ready to be literally president, and I think it would have been nice to see the rest of his journey to that point. What is Naruto's actual vision for the future beyond peace? What are his policy stances? His reforms? Why are no other candidates seriously considered? By the end of Shippuden, Shikamaru is arguably a better choice for Hokage from a political perspective, even if he isn't as physically powerful. Once Naruto is sworn in, Shikamaru functionally is Hokage in a lot of ways, because he's doing half the work around that office anyhow. Somewhat ironically, Naruto's strengths as a very combat-focused ninja are not especially helpful in peacetime. Sakura even has strengths that are more better suited to eras of peace, with her focus on medical infrastructure and technology, as well as her strong grasp of theory and strategy and history in the shinobi world, and experience with leadership, strengths shared by Shikamaru. Don't get me wrong, I would still want Naruto as Hokage over either of them, but I just wanted so much more in the getting there. Minato, the fourth Hokage, has a line about how, as long as shinobi culture exists, there may never be peace. The show inevitably ends up accepting this rather than unpacking it, and I've seen plenty of people jump through hoops to make Kakashi and Naruto look good as Hokage by claiming they pivoted away from military focus to technology, but most of that is B-plot or subtext in the sequel series and not ever addressed in the main series. So functionally, within Naruto and Naruto Shippuden, the Hokage is the head office of a village economically dependent on war and child soldiers. I cut Tsunade more slack because she walked into a huge mess that only got worse, and then there was that whole Danzo coup thing. She had maybe the most tumultuous tenure as Hokage due to constant external and internal threats that formed under the Third's watch and ended up being her problem instead. She had to spend so much time wading through everyone else's mess and single-handedly healing everyone that her generally small changes to the system and immediate retirement get something of a pass from me. Even with everything going on, she prioritized the healthcare system and fought the elders on almost everything. There's even an episode where Tsunade explicitly has a hardline stance of not sending kids to the front line in the war. We find this out because Konohamaru won't stop bothering her because he wants to go to war. Which sounds like the bare minimum, but historically, Konoha's Hokage have had zero qualms about doing so.
But now I must send the young ones off to war.
Sergeant Kindergarten reporting for duty. Also, why did the third Hokage have a crystal ball wizard style? And why did no one else have one? Except, well, I guess the senile frog had a crystal ball that could show the stuff, but no one else had one. The fact that they let 12-year-olds and often even younger children into the assassin military being so unaddressed is one of the strangest world-building elements of Naruto. Itachi is on the Assassination Black Ops squad at age 11, and both sides were trying to get him to play double agent. Fugaku and Danzo were both trying to get the 5th grader to snitch. All while Uchiha police brutality is canon. Some of the villains from the Akatsuki give a speech on exclusively cornering the war market and how the nation's economies are financially dependent on war, and if there isn't enough conflict, there are ninja layoffs. This does not come up very extensively later on, and most discussion is centered around a vague peace and hate after a certain point. Pain's stance on war varies from monologue to monologue a little, but the ideology of I'm gonna scare you so bad war will stop, and if you get too comfortable I'll do it again is very funny. It's 13-year-old logic, but that's really what a lot of philosophers do too. Abstracting the concept of peace and prosperity to the point of being willing to do the exact opposite in the name of it. When you don't value life on a human scale, you are willing to make inhumane sacrifices. Thinking in terms of net positive and necessary casualty creates comfortable emotional distance from the actual suffering that what you're suggesting will cause. Konoha's elder advisor people are the same way. When they don't view Naruto on a human individual scale, they are willing to put him through hell. Or the way that small child Kushina was brought to the village to be the Ninetales host without ever being told what was going on until she was already sort of trapped there. The third Hokage strikes again. She was a valuable resource to military strength, and this was placed above any form of agency for her. There is a codified culture of sealing godlike weapons inside small children for military gain in Naruto. Militaristic societies framing sacrifice as necessary while simultaneously being extremely vague about who, what, how, and the aftermath. It's all very ironic, because at the end, Nagato was really motivated by a level of personal vendetta under all his posturing. He's legitimately right about certain aspects of the shinobi world and its dependence on war, plus its disregard for the nation's use as battlegrounds by the 5 great nations, but makes the mistake of trying to pretend that what he's doing is for some higher purpose instead of admitting that it's because of the life he's lived. The village system is undeniably better than what they had before with their 30-year life expectancy and considering children reaching adulthood a massive accomplishment. Wild West kind of situation before this system was instituted, but that doesn't mean that it's good. There's that academy room meeting where there's just a massive pillar in the middle of the table blocking everyone's view. Clearly this is a government that prioritizes efficiency. Having our meeting from behind a live poll view. There's a lot to be unpacked with the government corruption and failed power structures, and Sakura's apprenticeship under Tsunade cleaning up after the Third's mess is a prime opportunity to explore those things. Her having to clean house and try and root out corruption that ran rampant and was legitimized by the Third, and then finding out that the Uchiha massacre and every other bit of tragic assery that took place while she was gone, and Sakura slowly realizing alongside her as a government-neglected orphan, in our version, how nothing about her life, or Naruto or Sasuke's lives, should have been the way that they were. Watching Tsunade react with anger upon finding out that Naruto was left almost entirely unsupervised aside from his homeroom teacher and a biannual check-in from the president, and then total fury upon finding out that Sakura didn't even have that much. The third Hokage's idea of taking responsibility for a horribly failed war was to step down and let someone else who was not responsible for the problems at hand shoulder the task of cleaning up the mess. Classic third Hokage, he's playing all the hits. In episode 480, he's shown introducing himself to Naruto, who was about 5 or 6 years old at the time. No clue who was watching Naruto before this. I have a couple notes for Minato too, assigning tween-age Kakashi to Anbu Black Ops after Kakashi has been displaying severe PTSD symptoms. Let's put the kid suffering from extreme guilt over feeling responsible for the death of his comrades with an aversion to leadership and a fear of losing his team again. Let's put him in charge of a high-risk tactical Black Ops squad, and then a squad of children, and then the entire government. Exposure therapy, I guess. Another thing that's particularly interesting to me about the war-dependent economy of the 5 great nations is the fact that none of them directly share a border with each other. This is brought up by some of the villains, that geographically it makes it very easy and practically guaranteed that any conflict between the 5 great nations would be carried out on the soil of a smaller, less powerful nation. Even outside direct warfare, the hitman gig economy they have means that most missions are also commissioned by and carried out in smaller nations. Either way, the major nations are spared a lot of bloodshed and poorer nations bear the civilian and infrastructure costs. This is a major motivation for Nagato, and it isn't really laid out that there's any kind of plan to change the treatment of smaller nations, as it were. We end at the same system, more benevolent dictator kind of spot. We still have child soldiers, that hasn't changed, and we're just gonna promise that we won't have war anymore with each other. But like, also now what? This is a very violent and corrupt system, and the fact that like top to bottom change is not tabled at the end of the series is it's very shonen anime. I don't know if I really would have expected that kind of political nuance from a show like Naruto, but it is interesting because the show itself brings up a lot of these issues on its own, right, with the war-dependent economy and children going to war, and then it just kind of is like, we're gonna do a little bit less of it, I guess. The end. And it's not really resolved.
Currently, all 5 great nations are equally stable.
Part 15, the lore. There's this divine tree, the Sage of 6 Paths, the reincarnated brothers. All of this nonsense just does not fit into the world of Naruto. They even have like a Pandora Eve equivalent story where, you know, woman eats forbidden fruit thing. Yggdrasil is there for some reason. There's another thing about the lore is that it's like a rip-off diet popular folklore. Like, this doesn't feel specific to the world at all. It just feels like Norse mythology made out with the Bible for a while. Like, Kaguya is just Eve in the Garden of Eden if Eve was also Prometheus and the apple gave you superpowers and the apple was from Yggdrasil. Which I guess in a roundabout way is sort of original. But a lot of the flashback lore stuff is also just kind of nonsensical. There's all this like child of frog prophecy business and the fact that Kaguya is actually an alien, I think. Like, what are we doing? Madara does this insane fake out death bit as part of his scheme too with Hashirama where he's like, I knew you would reanimate me so I did this and I talked to this guy, and it's just like, it's just a bunch of light Yagami bullshit. Perhaps evident in my previous section, I think the actual world building and lore on a more human, tangible, day-to-day scale is actually quite interesting, and we didn't need all of this. The world of Naruto is geopolitically pretty dense, and instead of exploring more of it, it tries to do a bunch of folklore, folktale, ancient magic lore with characters we don't care about. Very similar fumble to Ruby, weirdly. Ancient brothers and all. Just, it's Cain and Abel tomfoolery every goddamn time. So when you have these folklore tales of like two brothers betraying each other, you know, Amaterasu in Plato's cave with two twin brothers chewing on rocks and then one dies, whatever the hell, like that's that's folklore, you know, that those are things that happen. Like if you introduce a story like that to Lord of the Rings or like Legend of Zelda that have this whole like we have to get the MacGuffin to protect the world from the evil 100 years of darkness, you know, like those kind of stakes. The Shadow King, he's going to get us unless we banish him to his realm or whatever.
I know where this is going.
Like when you have stakes like that, the more like folkloric fable, those make more sense in context, right? Because that's kind of already the space the story existed in, with a softer magic system and a goal and plot progression that was more aligned with that in terms of scale. To staple that on top of the very like boots on the ground level that a lot of Naruto's storytelling has been up to this point, with the exception of a few things like the Pain Jesus missile that destroyed the village, and then bringing the dead back to life. I don't know, that's arguably a huge escalation as well, and I don't love the whole resurrection bit. Up until this point, Naruto has had very interpersonally grounded stakes and very politically grounded stakes, and I think that is why it doesn't work, because it feels dissonant, it feels separate from the world that we have been in for 400 episodes at this point by the time they start dropping this on the audience. Can you believe Merry Christmas is in my original conclusion? Because I was writing this in December. Shout out to the month of April. Yeah, if there's one thing I am, it's a liar when it comes to my schedule, I guess. It's not my fault. The script is 41,000 words and the video itself is like 4 hours. I think I did the best I could. I have internally investigated and decided that I did nothing wrong. Have a good night.
Eat shit! I've seen Naruto 45 times!
Okay, you've been watching too much Naruto.